Greetings and salutations, everybody. I'm Scott Shermer. Who are these people?
David Pruitt. And
I'm
Ben.
just Ben.
Just Ben. Just Ben. We're still fighting to try and make Ben a puppet or a robot or something. Instead, he's just Belazar the Cajun in standard 2D avatar. Sad avatar. Man, you need a fun avatar, Ben. You need a real fun one.
He needs to be a real boy.
He needs to be a lot of things. We're still fixing. He's a work in progress. We're working on him.
Broadcasting live from my brand new man cave that you'll never see, so it'll always be better in your imagination than in real life, but I'm happy with it.
I've seen a couple pictures. It's adequate. It's adequate.
Yeah, that's the job.
Do you mind telling people from where you're broadcasting, Ben? In the world?
In the world? Eastern Seaboard.
Oh, is that as close as...
Wow!
The Eastern Seaboard, wow. Ben is much more afraid of being known, boxed, or I don't know. Ben's just very
I value my
skeptical.
Anonymity.
Scott and I have lived a long life. We're good.
David and I are whores. We don't care. We're open books, man. You can come and I'm in Madison, Indiana. David's in Bloomington, Indiana. They're like an hour and 45 minutes apart. I used to live in Bloomington. And actually, Ben has lived in Indiana also, but not now. So I just sold people another clue about you, Ben. Do you think people are going to be able to figure it out soon? They'll be able to piece together who you are.
Yeah. Our most devout fans will put it all together.
I think this is our 6th show. I'm pretty sure it's the 6th one. I'm really terrible at math, though, so who the hell really knows?
Sounds about right.
We've been doing it for over a month now. And today we're going to be doing our tribute to Ray Harryhausen in the last half of the show, but we're going to start off the show doing the news, the announcements in 4K, what's coming out next weekend that we don't want to watch, because we hardly ever want to watch whatever's coming out next weekend. And then I'll be doing a review of the Arrow Video's new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles box set, which includes all 3 of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is about 1.5 good movies. And then we'll be going to Mr. Harryhausen's tribute, and we'll be talking about the movie Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, First Men in the Moon, Valley of Gwangi, and Clash of the Titans. I also must apologize because I have 2 conures that live with me.
Those are birds.
Those are birds, 2 little parrots, and their bedtime was a half hour ago, and usually they're quiet when they go to bed, but they hear me talking just around the corner, so they scream for like the first half hour of the show now, and I don't know how to get them to stop in any kind of humane fashion, so if you hear some screeching in the background, it's just my birds, Cushing and Charlie. They'll shut up after a while.
It's not at all the people he has tied up in the basement.
I don't have a basement, Dave, so meh. Also, I have to say, this is our first show broadcasting on both YouTube and Facebook. My personal Facebook page is broadcasting live right now, so if we can figure out how to get it to broadcast in more places simultaneously in the future, we'll do so. Please, by all means, join the chat. Leave some comments. We're monitoring the chat off and on throughout the whole show. We'll try and check it, especially between segments, so we'll highlight any kind of comments that aren't obscene or utterly confusing. So if you're out there, say hi, drop in, say something. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe to this channel. We like subscribers. We need subscribers because at some point in the distant future, we'd like this channel to be monetized. And we can't do that if we don't have a lot of subscribers. So subscribe, like, comment. All the engagement you can do is much appreciated. We try to comment on all the comments we find on YouTube. We just appreciate comments. Even if you don't like the movie, well, we're like, all right, that's fair.
Because Ben would like to, scrape up enough money to buy a taco.
Ben can buy a taco. So
okay, well, I would like to scrape up enough money to buy a taco.
I like to start all of our shows with something that has nothing to do with the show, just to piss people off. So I have a collection of vintage Kenner Star Wars action figures, and I took this picture of them before the show. I inherited most of these from a friend's mom, who, for some reason, just held on to all these things, and they're all in pretty good shape. She didn't have all of them, though. She was missing a lot of the ones at the end of the line, the Power of the Force last 17 figures. So I've been slowly trying to acquire those, and they're the most expensive. Like, they cost anywhere from $1 to like $500 or $600 loose.
Like the Luke's Stormtrooper one.
Yeah, on the top row, that's my most recent acquisition is Stormtrooper Luke with the Stormtrooper helmet. He's on the top row. You can see him standing there next to Han Solo. Ben was with me when I got that one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the town. It was in one of the Carolinas. It's a toy store called Toy Federation, who has their own YouTube channel. I advise you check out Toy Federation on YouTube if you're a fan of vintage toys, because they have a really cool channel where they evaluate all these toys that people bring in, and they see what they're worth, and they buy a lot of them. And if you ever have a chance to go to this store, it's one of the best toy stores in the world if you're interested in vintage stuff. They also have new stuff too. But I knew when I went there that they were going to have a figure that I needed, and they had Luke as a Stormtrooper. They also had a Monomon from Jabba's Palace that I wanted, but he was $500. That Luke was only $400.
Only.
I know. But you know what? I don't care about the weapons. There's some weapons in this display case, but if the weapon doesn't allow me to close the case, then I don't care about the weapons. And I know a lot of people are sticklers about that, but for whatever reason, I just don't care if they're complete with their weapons or not. So I took a bunch of weapons with me, and they bought my weapons for $250. So I got $250 knocked off that price of $400 for Luke Skywalker.
Now, you may not remember, but when the original A New Hope came out in 1977, they did not have toys ready in time for Christmas because they had not anticipated it was going to be as big as it was. And so they sold a certificate that you could buy, and it would give you, the certificate would get you like the first 3 or 4 figures, and then you got to like fill them out. There was like a little display stand, and I had that it was called the Early Bird set, and I had the complete Early Bird set. My mom got for me, had all the stickers and everything. I did not peel off any of the stickers. I left it pretty much pristine. And then when I left for college, my mom gave it away.
Oh.
So I spent years kind of like yeah. So I spent years kind of like recreating that, and I have most of it back, but
that's one of the most sought after items in all the vintage Kenner line.
It is.
It's the oldest.
Yeah.
So yeah, that hurts. The reason I brought this up tonight, though, is that I have acquired another figure. I only at this point need 5. There's 6 that I don't have, but I don't care about another R2-D2 that shoots the lightsaber out of its dome because it looks the same as the other R2-D2. So I'm not planning to get that one. So the 5 I need are Yak Face, the hardest to get because he never came out in America. He's the most expensive. He's probably going to be like $600 to $800 loose. So God knows whenever I'll get that one. A Monomon and Han Solo and Carbonite. I need him. And then there's an A-Wing pilot and the Imperial Gunner. And the one that I just found on eBay last night was the Imperial Gunner. My brother gave me some Christmas money, so I fucking spent it. It was only $120, though, and I feel like that's kind of low, but this is a really reputable seller with over 1,000 sales and a 100% rating. And so I'm like, 120 seems low, so I think next time we ever go to Toy Federation, Ben, I might bring this figure and say, hey, does this look legit to you? But I feel like I'm probably safe. If not,
how much does he usually go for?
There are other versions of him that go for $200 or $300. But he doesn't have his weapon, so that might be one of the reasons he's a little cheap. But anyway, I'm excited that I'm adding another weapon, another figure, and I'm that much closer to finishing my Kenner Star Wars collection. Also, I decided to start collecting the new Hasbro figures from 1995 to 2020. Oh my God, guys. I didn't know what I was getting into. That's hundreds of figures.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm not collecting all of them. What I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the movies chronologically, and just every time a character appears, I'm going to look for the best version of that figure released after Kenner and just get one version of that figure, whichever one looks the coolest. It's exciting to me because, by and large, the newer figures have better designs than the original Kenner figures, even though the Kenner ones are obviously more valuable. And they're cheap. All those toys from 1995 and beyond are like $5 a piece on the card, with rare exceptions. And even the most expensive of them are cheaper than this Imperial Gunner guy. So I'm like, that's going to be fun to collect all those figures. And they made everyone. There's not a single character from the Star Wars trilogy that they didn't make a figure out of. I was shocked. Like, there's some that I could never identify in a million years.
I assume you're only going to focus on the original trilogy?
There are only 3 Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
There are only 3.
That is true.
There are only 3. I hate to tell everyone, but yeah. I've heard legends about these prequels and sequels, and a lot of people like say there's this really great movie called Rogue One, and I'm like, what? I saw a movie called Rogue One, and I was so bored, I was literally looking at the Tivoli lights next to me on the ground, thinking about what I was going to add to my grocery list when I left this boring-ass movie that was hideously cast. The woman they cast in that movie sucked. I
loved Rogue One, so
Rogue One can eat my asshole. I hated it. I've watched it twice, like 10 years later I looked at it, or however many years later, a long time later. I still hate it. It's boring. It's a hot mess. Everyone just loves it because Darth Vader comes out in the last 5 minutes and kicks some ass. And I'm like, I'm sorry. You can't open your anus and shit all over me for 2 hours and then have Darth Vader come out and kick some ass for 2 minutes and have me like it. Don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. Rogue One sucked.
I actually liked it.
I know a lot of people who liked it. God bless all of you. It was not for me. It was not for me, man.
Yeah. For me, the sequel trilogy doesn't exist, but prequels for sure. I grew up on that.
I think the prequels, I mean, I don't love the prequels, but I think that the prequels have individual scenes that are some of the best stuff in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Aaron Marshall, glad to have you out there in the chat. I'm glad you love Ray Harryhausen too, man. The movies owe a lot to him. When we get to that part of the show tonight, I think if we don't remember to say it, then we'll just say it now. All the people that we love that were making movies in the 70s and 80s, they'll all tell you Ray Harryhausen was the one that made them want to make movies. So it's a big deal whether you know who he is directly or not. He really influenced everyone that you admire today. Good chance of it anyway. Let's all try to watch the chat because sometimes we can get carried away and it's hard to remember to look, but we'll try and keep our eye on that. But now we'll go ahead and go to the news because, good God, we can't be here forever. News. Five Nights at Freddy's, guys.
Ooh.
It did well. It did better than they thought it would. They were expecting it to make between 35 and 40 million, and it brought in domestically 63. Globally, it brought in 109. So it did very well, and it's probably one of the biggest hits that Blumhouse has had in a year or so, because last year was not a good year for Blumhouse. They had flop after flop.
Yeah,
with Wolfman,
for them lately.
Drop. I don't even remember Drop. Do you remember a movie called Drop?
Nope.
Me either. And they also had a flop with Megan 2.0, which everyone hated. I never even saw the first Megan. But this one did really well for them, so people are saying that between this and what was the other sequel they had earlier this year? Ethan Hawke was in it.
Black Phone
2. That did well.
Ugh.
So with those two, they're saying that Blumhouse might be back. And it's a hit for Universal, who's also doing pretty well with Wicked for Good. Wicked for Good looks like it's about to break even, I think. So it's not like a huge success, but it's really just because it cost so much to make in the first place. But it's going to make money. Zootopia 2 came in second again, and Zootopia 2, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being the highest grossing film of the year.
Which is crazy.
It's about to cross 1 billion globally. 1 billion. Zootopia 2. I think if you just release the right family movie on the right holiday, it almost doesn't matter what it is or how good it is. The families are just going to go to see it. And in this day and age, not that it's it wasn't like this in the past, but it seems like this day and age, that's one of the only ways you can make $1 billion is releasing a family film on a holiday.
I think there's also like a meme variable to it that I'm not totally familiar with, but I seem to remember there is something with Zootopia and
Really?
the memedom behind it. Yeah.
Well, some people joke that it's because there are more furries among us than any of us know.
I was going to mention that, but I wasn't sure.
I mean,
if it's true, it's true. I don't know. That's not a community I know very much about at all, but maybe it is true. I don't know. The fact is, Zootopia is clobbering the box office, and we don't really know why. But Five Nights at Freddy also is a video game, which I learned about last week when you guys informed me. And it really does kind of it kind of underscores something that Hollywood keeps. I think their appreciation of the fact that video game movies tend to do well is deepening. Because Minecraft exploded earlier this year, and Super Mario, the last couple of movies they've done with that have really done phenomenally well. So it's very obvious that Hollywood has lost whatever connection it once had to young people. And the only way to get them back, based on the facts and the evidence and the numbers, seems to be video games. Because that's where they are. They're playing video games. That's how you tap into what they're interested in.
It's a fair observation.
So, this movie, Freddy's 2, it cost $36 million. So it has it's like on its way to doubling its budget. If it gets close to tripling it, it's definitely profitable, and it looks like it's definitely going to get that. It's definitely going to go there. So that's the box office. It's still a bad year overall, but I guess this weekend wasn't as bad as it could have been. Then we have Quentin Tarantino being an asshole.
Yeah.
Called it.
Now, in the last several episodes, I have gotten on Ben's ass for disrespecting Mr. Tarantino, saying that he improvs all of his shit and doesn't write any of it, and I have rightfully,
defended him.
Cyber smacked Ben for those silly remarks. And then Tarantino comes out and acts like a total ass this week. He was on some podcast. I'm trying to remember. The Bret Easton Ellis podcast, I think, was the one.
Yeah.
And he said what his favorite movies of the century so far are. And he really loves his friend Paul Thomas Anderson's movie, There Will Be Blood, which I would have to agree is probably one of the 5 best movies of the century so far. But he says even as great as it is, Paul Dano sucks in it. Not just sucks. Tarantino's words are, obviously it's supposed to be a two-hander, but it's also drastically obvious that it's not a two-hander. Dano is weak sauce, man. He is the weak sister. Daniel Day-Lewis is eating him alive. Austin Butler would have been wonderful in that role. He's just such a weak, uninteresting guy. Daniel Day-Lewis shows that he doesn't need a strong foil. The movie needs it. He doesn't need anything. It's supposed to be a two-hander, and it's not. You put him with the weakest fucking actor in SAG. The limpest dick in the world.
Oh my God. It's just so over the top. It's so unnecessarily over the top. And he just doubles down on it. And the thing is I agree with him about Daniel Day-Lewis. I personally think Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the best actors of our time, one of the best living actors of our time. But Paul Dano was damn good in that movie.
He doesn't hurt it.
He doesn't hurt it.
He doesn't hurt that movie at all. I love that movie. Daniel Day-Lewis is better. I think most people would agree, but
I mean, yeah, but
it seems so out of left field to pick on Paul Dano.
It's really weird, and I feel like
something personal has to have happened between the two of them to explain
there has to be
this.
A history there,
or maybe Tarantino was like drunk or high or something.
I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe he's got that same affliction that like James Cameron has, where he's had so much success that he doesn't have a filter anymore. He just says whatever the hell he wants. He doesn't really think a whole lot about it, and it's just whatever is top of mind, and he just doesn't give a crap.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, you don't talk that way about people, and there's no good comes of that.
No.
Absolutely no good comes of trashing someone that not only you've never worked with, but like, what about all the people who do like that actor that are now rushing to Dano's defense? Like, just absolutely no good comes of it. And it's not bad enough that he trashed Paul Dano. He also trashed Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
And apparently the only thing he said about Matthew Lillard was, I don't care for Matthew Lillard.
Yeah,
but even that's enough. Like, why say anything at all about Matthew Lillard?
Yeah.
Lillard was at a convention in Ohio this weekend, and he had a really good response for it. He said, who the hell cares? Like, what difference does it make? Like, he really just shrugged it off. But he did say it hurts his feeling when he was pressed on it, but he's clearly, like, not caring. Plus, he's in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, #1 at the box office this weekend, so... Tarantino, I love you. I'll always love you. Your movies are awesome, no matter what Ben says. Ben's on crack. He does not appreciate your brilliance in filmmaking, but, dude, don't shut your pie hole. Winnow the diameter of your pie hole, sir. Just don't be trash-talking people. You don't have to like them, but nothing good comes of you telling the world how much you don't like them.
No.
Although I will always feel free to tell people how much I don't like Zack Snyder. You know why? Because I'm not Quentin Tarantino, and no one gives a shit what I think. And even I will acquiesce and say Zack Snyder has made some good movies. So anyway, that's a whole other show. So yeah, that's our little Tarantino news. And then we have one more news article before we hit the biggest news in Hollywood ever. But before we get to that biggest news in Hollywood ever, it's time for our show to acknowledge that the original theatrical cut of Star Wars is coming to theaters on February 17, 2027.
Yeah.
A year from February.
Yeah. This is for, if you don't understand the phrase Han shot first, if that means nothing to you, then this announcement probably means nothing to you either. Because this is all about the original theatrical release that came out in 1977 before it got the stank of the prequels on it.
Yeah.
Is what
not even before it got the stank of the special editions on it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get confirmation, but I believe this version they're going to show in theaters in 2027 doesn't even say episode 4.
It does. As I understand it, it is A New Hope.
So they're removing absolutely everything.
Yeah.
That they did to this film after 1977, which was a lot. And they hurt the film, by and large, with all those changes. Any Star Wars fan worth their salt will tell you special editions suck ass. Suck ass. The only good thing about the special editions was they did fix some of the special effects, the visual effects.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes, like the dogfight scenes with the TIE fighters and X-Wings, a lot of that was redone with modern special effects. The planets and space shots were redone. But
even some of those I don't like. But the stuff they did to kind of fix the transparency issue when they had the compositing, some of that was subtle and nice. But if I could if it's an all or nothing deal, give me the way it looked rough. Uh-oh, my ice maker's getting stuck. Talk amongst yourselves.
Wow. That's so loud.
That's a new one. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I've seen the original version of.
I have it on. I used to have it on VHS. I now have it on Laserdisc. I have the whole original trilogy on Laserdisc, which is not a convenient way to watch it at all.
No, it's not. It never was.
I watched Return of the Jedi, the original one with Scott.
Yep.
I think that's the only original version of.
That was the original theatrical that we watched.
Yeah.
Now there has been efforts to make bootleg versions called the despecialized versions that are taken from various source material and kind of cobbled together, and some of them are actually really good now. There are high definition like Blu-ray versions of I think all 3 movies now that are the original theatrical releases.
Yeah, I've seen custom box sets and things like that.
Yeah.
And George Lucas swore that we would never see the original unaltered pre-special edition versions ever again. So the fact Kathleen Kennedy has done many bad things as of late. Authorizing the original unmessed up theatrical cuts of these films to see the light of day is one of the good things she has done.
Yeah. If she's trying to get into heaven, this might help a little bit.
This is a step in the right direction. If she makes it so that we can have the original theatrical cuts of these movies on 4K, I think we will all forgive her for the sequel trilogy and the awful TV shows by and large. But I did think it's interesting that this has been in the news a lot lately instead of Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
Because the next big Star Wars thing is next May.
Yeah.
Mandalorian and Grogu comes out. But I'm seeing more about this and the film opening a few months after this comes out. In May 2027, we're getting Star Wars Starfighter, directed by Sean Levy, who did Deadpool and Wolverine and has also directed episodes of Stranger Things and starring Ryan Gosling.
It seems like based on the chatter that you see like on Reddit and stuff, I think that people are more looking forward to that than they are the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I don't see a whole lot of traffic on that online, so I don't know. It may not do well.
Yeah, that's what I was heading at with this. It seems to me that Lucasfilm might know people are much more interested in Starfighter than Mandalorian and Grogu, so they're just going ahead and kind of pushing that. It'll be very interesting to see how Mandalorian and Grogu does next year, because I think that show's time has passed. Hi, Robert! And I don't know. We'll see. So it hasn't been a fun several years to be a Star Wars fan. Ever since Disney bought it, it's kind of gone downhill. I don't think that's even up for debate. You can say you like Rogue One, but I think overall the quality of the films and the TV shows has been somewhat disappointing at best. And if you're like me, you just don't even care. And I haven't even seen some of them. So maybe it can get better. I don't know. Maybe it'll rise from the ashes. You guys ready to talk about the really distressing news?
I guess.
I woke up Friday thinking that this deal was like probably weeks or months off. Like it was going to be a long time before who bought Warner Brothers would be answered. And Friday morning, everyone was like, it's Netflix. And I'm like, oh my God. And my first thought was, well, I didn't want it to be Paramount because Paramount was in cahoots with the Saudi Arabians. There was a lot of Saudi money in the Paramount deal. And I don't want Saudi Arabia to own any part of Warner Brothers. But I also don't want Netflix to buy it. I think it would have been best if Universal won. Because Universal, I don't have a downside to that. Universal could... that sounds great. Netflix sucks. Because Netflix has repeatedly said, adamantly, without any shades of interpretation here, like they have flat out said they hate theatrical distribution. You have to twist their arms to get like one screening of a Netflix movie to be in a theater. They're doing Stranger Things. They've like done a little bit more this year than ever before, but still their stand is they don't like it. And even later on the day, Friday, when this deal was announced, the guy in charge of Netflix, who's the asshole whose name I don't remember.
Reed Hastings.
I think it's someone else now.
Is it someone else now?
Like
I think it might
something Sarandos or something.
Yes, Sarandos.
Sarandos, that's right, yeah.
But even on Friday, he said, yeah, we're probably going to shrink the theatrical window. And I'm like, it's 3 months right now. Like, how much more are you going to shrink it? And this is the real reason I hate this. You know where I'm going? Hard formats. Home video. Netflix does not release shit on home video.
It's true.
So when this deal happens, if it happens, you can rest assured, unless Netflix has a change of heart, which they've given us no reason to think that that's in the cards, they will never put a Warner Brothers movie out on Blu-ray or 4K. They will shrink the theatrical window down to where they probably just won't even put movies in theaters anymore. The Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, and all the guilds and unions in Hollywood are petitioning Democrats and Republicans alike at this very moment saying Netflix cannot own Warner Brothers. The industry through and through knows on every level this is bad. This is very bad. Warner Brothers owns more titles and IPs than any other studio. They have stuff all the way back to the 30s. Tons of stuff. Vast, vast libraries. Like the bulk of all of Hollywood history is with Warner Brothers. For it to all go to Netflix, which just wants to have you subscribe and watch shit on their platform, they don't care. They're not going to be good stewards of this art, of this entertainment. I'm just haunted by this deal. I think it's dreadful.
Do you think, of the potential like Hail Mary saves for this deal, do you think that like pressure from Hollywood, as far as making new content, do you think that or like if the Oscars decided that only movies that got a theatrical release would be awards contenders, do you think any of that would make a difference?
I don't think Netflix cares. Hollywood, I don't think there's anything Hollywood, the Academy, or anyone could do to stop Netflix from doing what Netflix wants to do. Netflix is not in the theatrical distribution business. Netflix owning Warner Brothers is the end of movie theaters and the end of home video.
I'm just wondering if there was like a boycott among creatives, actors, whatever.
I'm sure they'll try.
I think I heard about some unions pushing back against this, especially if like certain projects start getting canceled as a result of the merger. I know that's
all of the unions, the three major unions. For some reason, I'm blanking on one of them, but the writers, the actors, and the directors unions are all three. They've put out statements saying they're talking to Netflix to get their official point of view, but they are all deeply concerned, and simultaneously they are already lobbying Washington to not let this happen. And there are people who say Trump is not going to let this happen because Trump is in bed with Paramount Skydance and the Ellison family that owns those companies now because they lean right. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do it or not.
This deal still has to clear regulatory hurdles.
Right. Let's see.
Domestically and abroad.
Yeah.
And that's going to take 12 to 18 months for the deal to finalize. So even if this happens, we're not really going to see the effects of it for years down the road, possibly as many as 4 years.
But if there's any Warner Brother Blu-rays that you people want,
get them in the next 4 years.
Get them now.
But I thought it was interesting that they paid $82.7 billion. Because then I wanted to know, well, how much did Disney pay for Fox? Disney paid $52.4. But I think that's a testament to just how much bigger Warner Brothers is than Fox ever was.
Yeah.
And they are so sure that this is going to happen that they have a breakup deal. If for any reason, including if the government says, no, you can't have this union, cannot happen, Netflix has to pay Warner Brothers $5.8 billion.
Wow.
Both companies are so sure that this is going to happen that there will be no regulatory obstacles that they can't surmount, that they have to pay $5.8 billion if it doesn't happen.
That's like 3/4 of what Disney paid for Lucasfilm.
Yeah. And Paramount Skydance is pissed. Like they're going to Washington too, saying this is illegal. They're saying Netflix should never have had. They're being treated special.
Yeah.
And that the other bidders have been treated unfairly. So, it's ugly. I don't know anyone who thinks this is a good thing. I've seen nothing but bad press about it. Especially in my circles that I'm in a lot on YouTube, because I care about home video so much. Arrow Video, we're reviewing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies halfway through the show. That's a New Line franchise. A New Line's owned by Warner Brothers. Most of what Arrow Video puts out are Warner Brothers titles because they've had a deal with Warner Brothers for a long time. I don't know when that deal's up, but Arrow Video is going to have to redefine itself as a company if Warner Brothers stops allowing titles to go out. I'm grateful Excalibur's coming in February. I'm glad it got in before the shit hits the fan. So yeah, this is sad. I'm sure there'll be a lot more news about it over the coming years. And maybe Netflix will see the light and go, you know what? We've said these things in the past and this has been who we were, but we're going to be different now. Or maybe they'll assure us that Warner Brothers will have its autonomy and be able to carry on the way it always has. I just don't see any reason for that to be the case, unfortunately.
I mean, at the very least, Netflix does have a history of reversing controversial decisions if they thought it was going to hurt them. So, I don't know if I guess if enough people are pissed off about it and cancel subscriptions or something, I don't know.
That's what I was gonna say. Because that we saw recently with the Jimmy Kimmel thing how quickly that got reversed because of audience blowback.
I mean, if this deal goes through, you can pretty much bet that people's Netflix subscriber fees are not going to go down.
I'm canceling my Netflix after Stranger Things, and I am not renewing because I can't even conceive of what else could come out that would make me want to re-up my Netflix after Stranger Things. Robert Alvarez, who does work in the industry, says, "All this makes me sick. Not sure how it's going to affect my line of work. Ugh." I'm not sure either, Robert. It depends on how much Netflix is going to continue making TV shows or movies. But of all the things I've said, probably the thing I'm most sure of is that it's going to mean less movies. Because every time studios merge, the result is less movies are made. So that's no good. I just don't see. I don't see an upside. I don't see an upside. This depressed the shit out of me Friday.
This is, no more or less movies being made in terms of the studio system. But I think I saw somebody on your page, Scott, comment that this news, as bad as it is, will not stop people from picking up cameras and making movies.
Oh, sure.
And I thought that was just a really great comment that I almost feel like we need to do something recalcitrant, like organize grassroots film festivals where people just go out and make little movies and just screen them in their towns and just completely excise the hold that streaming and all the other corporate politics the studio system have over the medium,
I would love to see somebody do that, but personally, my film festival days are long over.
I would never say never, Dave. I would never say never. I could see us going back into film festivals at some point.
It's so hard. Well, it's not as hard as making a movie.
Well, even just like basic SOV grassroots stuff, like that, wasn't there like a Jack Black movie, Be Kind Rewind, where they just make spoof versions of classic films on SOV and just screen it, and everybody was just showing up to watch it, even though the movies are just really bad. That was half the charm.
I mean, history repeats itself, and I think when Hollywood in the 50s, 60s kind of their budgets got too big and the movies were flopping, they kind of retreated, and then the film school generation came in and kind of reinvigorated things. So maybe something like that will happen, where like young people who Hollywood is clearly out of touch with, if people young enough can get in there and start doing what their generation wants, maybe something will happen. I don't know. But I got to tell you, one of the reasons I wanted to name this show Cinema Century was because I was split. Half of me really believes that 10 or 20 years from now, we're going to all look back at popular cinema as having lasted about a century.
Yeah.
And it'll never be what it was. So when you talk about, I mean, in the 20s and 30s, most people went to the movies every week. Every week. And you know how well movies were doing up until Marvel's big Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. When was that? 2019 maybe? 2020? I don't remember. Yeah. So for about a century, movies had sway over culture. And ever since the pandemic, it just does not appear that they're ever going to be able to get it all back. And a lot of it's self-inflicted. Stupid decisions like streaming platforms and narrowing the window down to where everybody knows now, well, I don't have to see it in a theater. Why pay $10, $20 to see it in a theater when I can just see it at home next week or at the same time? So the industry's dead, and it really makes me sad because, man, I decided I wanted to make movies when I was in grade school. I called myself in 3rd grade a movieologist. I carried a little clipboard, and I had I taped a little sign to it that said Scott Shermer movieologist. I wanted to be the person who knew about movies. And it was dumb, but it was also kind of cute. It's just to say that ever since I was a little kid in grade school, movies were my passion, and to watch them die has just been really painful and a cause of a lot of depression.
I made what had to have been one of the very first Star Wars fan films, because I made it in 1978, and I shot it on Super 8 from a camera that I stole from my school's library to keep from getting an F in an art class.
I hadn't heard that about you, Dave.
Yeah,
I didn't get to mess with Super 8 until college.
No, I went to the school library. I was in danger of getting an F because I hadn't done my art project for my art class that you had a whole year to do, and I procrastinated and waited until like the last 9 weeks to do this art project. And I decided I wanted to make a movie, and so I went to the library and I checked out the school's one and only which was a Super 8 camera, and I took it to my locker and I took the camera out of the box and I put one of my textbooks in the box and took it back and checked it back in, because you weren't supposed to take it out of the school. And then I took it home and I kept it for weeks and shot a stop motion film, a Star Wars film, using the little figures like you just showed.
Oh yeah.
And then I got a B, and I did not fail.
That's on the Ray Harryhausen theme of the night too.
Yeah,
animating your Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
Robert Alvarez, that's well said. That's one thing I hope comes out of all this corporate business in Hollywood, that independent cinema can rise again strong. If anyone can save it, it's got to be the indies. It's got to be some outside thinking. And art house independent theaters as well. I do think that cinema will always be around the same way painting and plays and ballet and all the fine arts are still around, but it's just going to be greatly diminished. You'll have to drive an hour or two to get to a theater. Probably not every city's going to have a movie theater. And I was saying this is like 10 years down the road, 10, 15. But if Netflix has their way, maybe it'll be sooner.
I mean, already where you live, Madison does not have a theater. I would say that Bloomington is very close to not having a theater anymore.
Seems like it.
And Bloomington is a town of 100,000 people. But we're very close to not having a theater anymore.
And when I was in college, if you'd have said a college town would get to the point where it doesn't have a bookstore, which it does now, a bookstore came back, so they do have a bookstore now. But for a while, a college town didn't have a bookstore.
No bookstores.
Or a movie, and now maybe it won't have a movie theater. That just seems that's how much we've changed as a society since we were in college.
Yeah.
I hate change. I think that it sucks. It's a bad thing. I think we should just freeze ourselves in 1985.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
I think I would be pretty happy if we could go back to a pre-internet world, but that's just me. But anyway, we'll stay abreast of this Netflix situation, and I think we'll move on now to the Collector's Corner. Unless you had something to say, was I cutting you off, Ben?
No, I was just saying it does feel like the death of something, but in the sense of, like a phoenix's death. I think because the technology is so democratized now, it's just going to be impossible to keep the production of film as a medium down. I think we're going to, if anything, maybe the studio system has to collapse to remove the stagnation and try to give birth to something new, a renaissance, if you will. Yeah. That's my hope anyway.
I feel that way about a lot of things and about society in general. We have to hit rock bottom before we can start to rise again. And I'm just wondering, how much further do we have to go?
Yeah, I have immense respect for what came before, but I think that corporations have to cannibalize each other before we come out of the ashes.
Hey,
rebuild.
They're eating.
Yeah.
They're on the Donner Party, man. They're eating each other. Disney ate Fox. Netflix is eating. So
everybody.
It's just ugly. There'll be one fat cannibal at the end, and then they'll die because there's no one else to eat. So, Collector's Corner. I mentioned that Jimmy Reardon was coming out, and now Kino Lorber has a date for it. So I just wanted to update everyone and let you know that this River Phoenix movie, I was a big fan of River Phoenix growing up because we were roughly the same age. Coming out February 3rd. I'll be picking this one up because, like I said, I'm a pretty big River Phoenix fan. This isn't one of my favorite River Phoenix movies, but there is an interesting subplot where he has sex with an older woman. And I think Anne Magnuson, if I'm not mistaken, plays the older woman, and she's like a friend of his mother's. So it's got a little bit of a... It's not as cute and teeny bop as this cover would lead you to believe. It's a little bit more dramatic and heady than that. It's also got a new audio commentary with some historians, so that might be worth checking out. Kino Lorber also just announced a 4K upgrade for a movie we reviewed a few weeks ago, Somewhere in Time. It's going to be a nice new transfer from the camera negative. It's going to have a commentary with a novelist and a film critic. It's going to have another commentary with some other filmmakers and historians, and the archival commentary by director Gino Schwartz.
I think that somebody should start paying us, because every time we mention a film on this show, it ends up with a 4K release.
We'll see if we can keep that up. I don't know. I think it's probably just a coincidence. But if you got to get your Reeve and your Seymour on, Kino Lorber, as they frequently are, and since they do the Lord's work, they're here to save the day for you. They're also putting out Dead Again, which I remember being a pretty good movie, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. I'm a big Emma Thompson fan. I guess Kenneth Branagh's okay too, but I really love Emma Thompson in just about everything. So I might be interested in seeing this one again. I don't think I'll buy it, but maybe it'll make me want to watch it again if it's streaming somewhere. And then Mill Creek, one of the worst distributors out there because the quality of their picture is traditionally not very good, but it's Hanky Panky. I don't know how high up that is on very many people's lists. Love Gene Wilder, love Gilda Radner, never seen Hanky Panky. So if you're a fan of Hanky Panky, let us know in the chat. If you're a fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme, Double Impact is getting 2 releases.
Why are you laughing,
February.
Ben?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Are you laughing because you don't think Jean-Claude Van Damme has any fans?
Well, it's just...
How dare you?
He does, dude. People love Jean-Claude Van Damme.
People love the Jean-Claude.
I don't know the Jean-Claude. I don't think I've seen a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, to be honest.
I don't think I've seen a single one of his movies now.
But I'm not necessarily opposed to it either. But if you like Double Impact, here in America, MVD is putting it out in their Rewind collection on 4K, February 17. But if you really, really like Double Impact, you might want to hold out for an undetermined time in early 2026, because 88 Films, I think they're in the UK, is putting out a fancy edition of Double Impact in a rigid slip box, which collectors call the chunky box. So if you want to get your chunky box on, you might want to hold out for that international edition.
With Jean-Claude's rigid steel box.
Well, it's cardboard, but it's rigid.
Yeah, that.
And then another film we reviewed a few weeks ago is also coming out from 88 Films in March 16th. You can pre-order this now on your favorite boutique store website. I highly recommend Orbit DVD. I'll tell you what, man. Orbit DVD, when I order from them, my shit is in the mail within 24 hours, always. And I get it within the week, always. Sometimes I get it like 3 days later. And there are other great boutique stores. I never get them as quickly from those other boutiques as I do from Orbit. And maybe it's because Orbit's closer to me. I don't know. All I know is that for me, Orbit does me right. They never ship in a flimsy paper bag like Amazon does. They always ship in a nice sturdy cardboard box. And sometimes when I've ordered things, they will even email you to say, you know what, we just noticed the slipcover on this DVD or this Blu-ray has a ding in it. Do you still want it? That's the level of care Orbit DVD does. So they have not given me any money. I am, sucking their, what, for my own reasons. This is a legitimate, I love Orbit DVD.
But if you wanted to give us money, Orbit.
Yeah, Orbit, you can give us money. That'd be awesome. Or store credit. That'd be great.
They're great communication and ordering. I think I was ordering that Australian release of Possession that I was trading you for, the big box set. And It was like a slight delay. I think it was 2-day delay in the shipping, and they emailed me to let me know or something like that. I was really impressed with that. But they also have reduced prices for pre-orders, or at least for some of their pre-orders that they have up.
I haven't noticed that. Their
like,
prices, you'll always get it cheaper on Amazon, but
well, yeah, but
Amazon will send it to you 90% chance destroyed.
yeah, well, there's that, and also Amazon doesn't have all the boutique stuff. Like, they don't have gator bait. I don't think so. They had gator bait $10 off on Orbit when I did my pre-order. So
Ben, your Cajun fetish is showing. So Fade to Black, if you want it, 88 Films, they do good work. I have their American Pie and American Pie 2 releases, and I think I've got some others of theirs. I think they put out the Penelope Spheris movie from the mid-'80s that has Charlie Sheen in it. Oh, I'm blanking on the title. But yeah, Fade to Black is coming. I might pick that one up at some point. It's not high on my list because I'm trying to cut back. Shout Factory, who's just let a bunch of employees go and merged with Groove Entertainment. So you can't order things directly from Shout and Scream Factory anymore. You have to go to groove.com to order their stuff. This is one of their first announcements since that merger or change. I guess they closed down their warehouse and sent all their stock to Groove or something. They're releasing Nightcrawler, and if you're a fan of Nightcrawler as I am, you do not like this cover art because where's Jake Gyllenhaal?
no.
Yeah, and it looks like a Gone in 60 Seconds or
It's Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious. Yeah,
It's Two Night, Two Crawler. Yeah, nobody likes this artwork, so I hope they put out a standard slipcover because I'd rather not have this in my collection, to be honest.
I don't know who approved that.
February 17, they are also putting out a 4K release of Brotherhood of the Wolf, which I know has a small but devout following. This seems like something Ben would like.
Yeah, I own that. I enjoyed it. I don't have a steel case, but I do have the other Shout release.
You know how I knew it was a Ben movie?
Werewolves.
his face is hidden.
And it
That too.
and it takes place in the past, so it's history.
Mhm. Yeah, it's all fair.
Wasn't this one of James Wan's first movies? Dead Silence? I think it might have been.
I think so.
I remember our mutual friends Arthur and Leah told me I had to see this, and I did, and I liked it. So I guess it's nice to see that it's coming to 4K. I don't know if I need to pick this one up, but if you're a fan of Dead Silence, it was a good movie, and it's coming out in a nice steelbook from Shout Factory on February 17th. Then we have Imprint, which is a company in Australia. So if you're going to want any of these titles, you'll have to go to Orbit DVD or a boutique store like Grindhouse Video or Diabolic DVD to pick these up. I know tariffs are a big deal these days, but the boutique stores that I just mentioned, the three of them, they pay the tariffs, not you, when you order from the boutique stores. If you try to order from Imprint directly, I'm not even sure you can anymore. I think they've shut it down. But February 25, these are Blu-rays, not 4K. Don't get your panties in a twist. You know what? I have a 114-inch projected screen and a really well-encoded Blu-ray. I can't tell the difference from a 4K. Almost all the time. Blu-ray is still good enough for a lot of movies. These are not top-tier titles. If you've ever wanted High Road to China or any of these, you know what? Be grateful. Imprint's picking them out, saving them from obscurity, and putting them out on Blu-ray in February. And then we have a new label. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we introduced the new label that was putting out Donnie Darko again? Well, now we have another company, Zavvi, who's been putting stuff out for a while, has a sub-label called Beta Axe, which is a weird name. And their first title in the second quarter of 2026 is The Untouchables, which I literally just bought on 4K 2 weeks ago. But I'm actually kind of glad that I went ahead and bought the 4K when it was on sale, because I don't think I want to spend this much money for a fancier edition. They're putting it out 3 versions of it. You can spend the most money to get what you see right now, which is like a steel book and a box with a book and a bunch of other shit for like $149. Or you can get rid of one of the boxes and maybe some of the other shit and pay $90. Or for just the steel book, which is an okay looking steel book, $45. I'm just going to keep my standard slipcover that I think I got for $10 on Black Friday. Then we have what's coming out next week. I looked at my website for my movie theater that I go to, and they only had these two movies opening next weekend. Ella McKay is a James L. Brooks movie. I used to like a James L. Brooks when he did Terms of Endearment and As Good as It Gets, but what has he done for me this century? I can't think of anything. So I don't know if I'm all that interested. I'm going to have to see what the critics say about this one, Ella McKay. And then I didn't know until I looked this morning that there's a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night coming out. It's the right time to release it. But I don't think I want to go see it. Do either of these make either of you? No.
No.
How awful are we? Every week we say what's going to come out next week, and then we say we're not seeing any of it. It all looks like crap.
Right. Here we are lamenting the future of Hollywood.
And we're not seeing shit anyway.
And we're not seeing shit anymore.
I mean, I might see Silent Night, Deadly Night. If I went at the theater and I had to see something, I would see that. Especially since it came from the studio. It says the studio that brought you Terrifier 2 and 3. I went to see Terrifier 3 last year, and oh my god, I can't believe that got a general theatrical release. And it just came and went, and I hardly heard any buzz about it.
But I'm sure it made a ton of money.
I remember when Hostel came out, and how everybody was losing their minds over Hostel. And then Terrifier 3, which is one of the most goriest films I've ever seen, one of the most mean-spirited films I've ever seen.
Ben, I don't know if you noticed, but the world changed a lot over the last 10 years.
Well, still, though, I mean...
Like, we have no standards
hardly,
anymore.
I don't know. It's just...
What I miss is that I've never even heard of these two movies until today. And when Dave and I were growing up in the dinosaur days...
Back in the olden times.
We would have known about these because there were only 3 or 4 channels on TV, and all the movies coming out were constantly advertised all throughout the week or two before release. There couldn't be a nationwide release that you didn't know about if you watched any TV at all. So, and also, if we loved movies like Dave and I did, there was Premiere Magazine, and there was Entertainment Weekly, and on TV there was Entertainment Tonight. I watched all those, and they all covered all this stuff. There's nothing like that today. Even when the internet first came out, we had Ain't It Cool News. But I don't know where to go, and I don't care enough anymore because the quality of all the films overall has gotten so bad. I'm so disinterested in all the stories people are telling that it's almost not worth it to look and see what's coming out because the odds truly are that I'm not going to be interested. So it's got to take 3 or 4 people that I know to tell me it's worth looking at.
I'm not sure how movies really get marketed anymore because, like the last movie that I saw that got really heavy marketing was Tron Ares, and all that was on like Disney Plus. I was seeing like ads on Disney Plus, which makes sense, because it's a Disney film.
They're just paying themselves there. Right,
they're just paying themselves. But, like I don't see a lot of movie marketing anymore. Every once in a while an ad will pop up on, like Reddit if you're on Reddit. But again, it's all algorithm controlled, so it's based on, kind of like what your interests are. And so you're only going to see advertisements for movies that maybe you were already kind of interested in anyway. So I really don't know how movies get marketed anymore.
They keep spending the money on them. I've heard they spend sometimes still the production budget worth on marketing. But I know TV ads cost a lot. I know a Super Bowl ad in particular is like one of the most expensive things you can buy. I don't know how else they do it. I mean, I'm on Facebook all the time. I don't get any advertisements for any movies there, hardly ever.
Hardly ever. Maybe like once every 3 months.
How do you reach us? Like
I don't know.
I don't know. Things were better when we were younger. Face it. Ben, I'm sorry you missed out on all the cool years.
Sometimes it feels that way.
You did. I guess you caught some of the 90s. They were okay, but then grunge came and destroyed everything. I really do blame grunge.
No.
Nirvana. Once Nirvana started wailing, everything went downhill.
No. Grunge was great.
If you say so. So that's what's coming. We're not seeing it. Let's do some 4K reviews. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Do you guys care about the Turtles at all?
Not really.
Well, Dave's a little older than me, so you definitely missed them. I think when this movie came out in 1990, the first one, I was 16, and Ben was just being born. So, Ben, did you ever get into them? Because they were around when you were a little bit.
No, yeah, a lot of people in my generation loved it. I just know Kevin Eastman, who created it, also brought heavy metal to the States, and so that's all. I commend him for that, but I never really got into.
For me, like I remember the comic books, the Teenage Mutant Ninja comic books, and when they came out, when they like very first came out, they were kind of like underground and subversive. And then it felt like everything that came after that with the movies and cartoons and stuff lost that, it kind of ruined it. So.
So they were comic book first.
Yeah.
Then I think they were a cartoon.
Yeah.
And the action figures came sometime around the cartoon, I think. And then this movie came out pretty soon after the phenomenon hit. Like they hit on it pretty quickly. I didn't care about the Turtles. I remember hearing the title and just thinking it was stupid. Like, I love Thundercats and Silverhawks, and I mean, I guess they're kind of stupid too. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for me, was a step too far. Like, that just seemed too silly. And plus, when you're 16, it just sounds like that's meant for a little bit younger. But when this movie was announced, I knew that Jim Henson's Creature Company was doing the Turtles and Splinter, the rat, and the animatronics. So my friend Heidi and I, we were like, well, we got to go see that because we fucking love Jim Henson. We love The Dark Crystal. We love Labyrinth. So we went to see it for that reason, for that aspect of it all. And I remember liking it in the theater when I saw it. I remember it was really dark. Photographically, the first Turtles movie is really dark. And over the years, I was like, well, maybe the bulb needed change. Nope, it's still really dark. Even in this 4K edition, it's still really dark. But it's a good movie, and watching it over the weekend, last night, I'll tell you guys, I watched all three of these Turtle movies back to back to back. I got some taquitos and some avocado lime dipping sauce for them, and I think I had coffee and Gatorade to help me through it. And I watched them back to back to back. The first one I enjoyed. The other ones, not so much. But I'm just letting everyone who's interested see kind of what these special features are, because this is a packed box. It's got all three movies on 4K. The first one is a restoration from the original camera negative. The sequels, parts 2 and 3, are from the inner positive. I didn't really notice much difference in the picture quality. A lot of people out there are saying that part 2 looks a little inferior to parts 1 and 3. I didn't notice it. I thought they all looked really good. If anything, I thought part 1 is a lot grainier than the other two. So if you're young and stupid and you don't like grain, I'm sorry, but grain is awesome. You might not like the way the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie looks, because it's pretty grainy. They didn't degrain it. The second and the third are a lot less grainy. You might like those a little better. But this box has a whole bunch of shit in it, and I just thought I'd show the box in real. Oh, my green screen's still on. I forgot to turn my green screen off, but that's kind of what the box looks like.
For a second, I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That's a neat effect. How did they do that? That's some new technology. I'm not going to open it up because there's just too much stuff in it. If you're a fan, you can count on Arrow. They did right by this trilogy, as right as anyone could. I turned all those covers over because I don't like the new artwork. Arrow always gives you the original poster art. Maybe not always, but most of the time. So I flipped all the covers over to the original poster art. I like that a lot better. The little cards you see along the bottom of the screen have like a metallic sheen to them. So they're not just cheap paper. They're like kind of fancy paper. And they have all the main characters. There's like a card for each main character in the series. So I thought that was a nice little touch. And those are little stickers on the far right bottom. But let's talk about the first one. 1990s when it came out. It was directed by Steve Barron, who hasn't really done a whole lot before this movie or since. I think he's done a lot of television, but he did a good job directing this movie. It's well made. The action choreography could be better. It's not the most exciting, but it's adequate. And the humor works throughout this movie. What's most important about the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is that it has heart. And I know that sounds cheesy. And I know that makes a lot of people go, oh, gross, I don't want to see a movie with heart. Well, you know what? It's not like overt and in your face and in a gag me with a spoon kind of a way. This is a movie that resonates with boys and young men because it's about 4 teenagers. They're turtles, they're mutants, they're ninjas, but they're teenagers. And teenage boys need guidance and discipline, and they need structure in their lives. And if someone... A master splinter, yes. If someone like Splinter doesn't come along to provide it, they will seek it elsewhere, and that's when they can fall into gangs. Or become that word that rhymes with blim cells. But watching this movie, it's so obvious that it's like an anti-gang movie because the bad guy in the movie is Shredder, and he basically has all the kids in New York working for him, stealing money and like appliances on the streets to like make money for him, and they just all live with him in his little underground lair, and it's obviously a gang. And there's even like an initiation ritual that you see early in the movie where like one of the teens or young boys like has stolen enough money and appliances to like be knighted or something like that.
Yeah.
And on the contrary, you have Splinter teaching and training these 4 turtles that he calls his sons in the light. He's teaching them in the light. So there's like a contrast, and I think it's very obvious why this movie is so loved by a lot of boys and men. I don't know if this was in the comic books and the cartoon show, but it's in the movie. And that's why I like this movie. It's about something. It's responsible, I think. It's responsible, somewhat inspirational storytelling. And it stars Judith Hoag as their friend April. Elias Koteas, this is one of his first movies. Casey is his name in the movie. You have to forgive me, I don't know all the characters that well since I'm not a Turtle fan. And the other 2 other people that appear in this movie. Corey Feldman is the voice of Donatello. I didn't recognize any of the other voice actors for the Turtles. He's not inside the suit. Those are some other actors, but he does the voice of Donatello, the one with the purple eye band. And Sam Rockwell is in this movie looks like a teenager, as one of Shredder's thugs. You'll see him off and on throughout. This was a huge hit. It was like a sleeper hit. This was not financed by a major studio. It was an independent film made by either a Chinese or a Japanese company. I don't remember which. It's definitely an overseas company of some kind that produced it for $13.5 million, and it ended up grossing $190 million. So it was enormous. And I read somewhere that it was the biggest independent film of all time at that time in terms of its gross.
Wow.
Trivia time. To help disguise how cumbersome and slow the Turtles' costumes were, they shot the dialogue at 23 frames a second instead of 24, because for some reason that kind of smoothed it out.
Well, I think all those suits, they used like pneumatics to control the mouths, and there wasn't good reaction time with those controls, and so they kind of had to fudge it a little bit in order to make it match normal speech.
Well, it looks really good in the movie, especially when you compare it to the sequels. Well, actually, the second one looks really good compared to the third. We'll get to that. It was the last theatrical film that Jim Henson was associated with before he died about a month and a half after this movie was released. Because Jim Henson's Creature Company did these animatronics. Corey Feldman says he was only paid $1,500 to do the voiceover, because the producers told him it was a small, low-budget movie that would probably only go to video. Oh. So he was a little disappointed when it made all those millions. And also, this is the first movie for film editor Sally Menke, who would later go on to work for Quentin Tarantino on many films. This was her first editing credit. The picture quality, which I should have started with earlier, is really good because Arrow always does good work. I can't think of a time. I can't seriously think of a film that Arrow hasn't done justice by. Like I said, it's a dark film. That's not Arrow's fault. It was shot dark. I don't think they could afford a whole lot of lights. Sometimes, like even this picture of a Splinter, I went into Photoshop and brightened this freaking photo because it was dark. You couldn't see him, and it was the only freaking photo of Splinter I could find. And Splinter looks great in the movie, but for some reason, it's hard to find a good still of him. It's a dark film.
Yeah, I always kind of assumed that it was like purposeful because they were trying to kind of hide some of the zippers and things in the suits, and so it was like a conscious choice.
I bet that's at least part of it, if not the whole reason. I mean, it looks good. You just have to kind of be prepared for it to be a dark movie. And there's a lot of film grain when it's dark out. There just always is grain then.
Yeah, if you look online, you'll find like blooper stills where you can actually see like a zipper in the neck of one of the turtle suits and stuff like that. So,
And sound-wise, this is the one movie in the box set that Arrow gave a Dolby Atmos track. I did not notice any use of the height channels, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. I just didn't notice it. But honestly, I don't think Dolby Atmos is all that, really. How many movies really require audio above you? It's almost a gimmick. So I don't hold that against this release at all. It has good surround sound. That's what's more important to me, that the side channels and the rear channels are active throughout. Mostly it's music, but you know what? That's what I like. If you're going to get me engaged in a movie, give me some of the music on the sides and behind me, because that's what makes me feel like I'm inside the movie emotionally, if not viscerally. And there is some directional sound effects, especially whenever like the turtles attack people in the dark and like the picture goes completely dark and then you hear like whizzing and clanging all around you. So there are some isolated moments on the surround sound that are pretty cool. But I would give the picture quality, I'd give it a solid A-. And the sound I would give a B+. And the packaging's an A. Arrow always does good packaging. They have an alternate cover for all of this box set if you want to go to their website. I don't know if it's still available. It may have sold out. But I didn't like that alternate artwork as much as the original poster, so that's the version I got. The movie itself, I was moved, and you know what? I almost even cried at this movie. Any movie that can hook me emotionally. Raphael is having issues throughout the movie. Splinter can tell he's really bothered by things. These characters have inner emotional lives in this first movie that allow you to relate with them. It's compelling in a surprising way. I give it an 8. I really do think that the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is worth most people's time. I'm going to say that. I ain't going to be saying this about the sequels.
Yeah. I haven't seen this movie recently enough to feel comfortable giving it a grade, but I do remember really enjoying it. I saw part of the second one on TV, and then I never bothered watching the one after that. So
I don't think most people did. So we'll go right to the second one now. The first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1990 was such a huge hit that they went right into production with this sequel. This sequel came out less than a year later. That's almost unheard of, to like make a movie that quickly. And at least in terms of the production values, it doesn't really show. I would say it's even more polished than the first movie. It's a much brighter movie on purpose. The director of the first film, liked how dark it was, and I think most people would agree it was suitable to that film. But the producers, they didn't like it being dark, so they very conscientiously made this a much brighter movie. It's a much more cartoony looking movie, but I think the Henson people must have had a chance to improve the animatronics, because I thought they moved even better in the sequel than in the first film, especially under the brighter lighting when you can see the zippers and everything more. I mean, you would if they weren't careful anyway. The April character is not played by the same lady, unfortunately, because I did not appreciate Judith Hoag's performance as April O'Neil in the first film until I saw this driftwood woman.
Yeah.
this driftwood woman whose name escapes me. So lifeless, so just like, is she even there? And I mean, some of that could be because of the writing. I'm reluctant to blame the actor all the time, because a lot of what they contribute to the film, the writer and the director are also responsible for, and the editor. It's not all the actor. I hate to blame the actor too much, but Judith Hoag was better, and she's missed. She's missed in this movie and the third one. She didn't come back because she didn't want to work 6 days a week, and they weren't going to pay her enough for it. So fair enough, you know?
Yeah.
The sequel is... the humor's the same. The production values are higher. The budget was, I think, twice as much. And it still made... it didn't make anywhere near 109, but it did make profit. But it's silly.
And it's missing the heart that you were talking about from the first movie, for sure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they kind of... there's residual heart from the first movie threatening to kind of come through, but there's not enough. The relationship between Splinter and the turtles is still there, at least. And the humor works. What really hurts this movie for me is the last 20 minutes, because when they finally... there's like these other two mutants. There's this doctor played by David Warner, that Shredder, he comes back, even though they mashed him up in a trash compactor at the end of the first film. He's back in this one, and he gets this doctor played by David Warner, the great David Warner. Always happy to see him in a movie. He invented the slime that turned Splinter and the Turtles into the mutants they are today, and there's one vial of that slime left, and Shredder uses it to create two new villains, like a box turtle and a wolf. There they are on screen right now. And the last 20 minutes is the confrontation with them, and it's just the turtles like poison some donuts and feed them to them, and then they all like crash land into a Vanilla Ice concert, like at a club. And once they vanquish the box turtle bad guy and the wolf bad guy, Shredder drinks some of the slime and gets real big and starts tearing the whole place up, and like everything's caving in on them. And the turtles are like, "Hey Shredder, if you cave the whole place in, like, we're gonna die and so are you." And he's like, "I don't care." So he just keeps doing it. They go inside their shells, and Shredder kills himself. Makes the whole thing cave in on himself. And then when it's all caved in, they just come out of their shells. So the whole last 20 minutes from Vanilla Ice on and the donuts is just unforgivably dumb. Dumb. And, like, the thing is that the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles works for all ages. And I mean that. You could be 80 or you could be 8. It'll work for you. You'll get something out of it. Kids are going to enjoy it more. Sure. Teenagers are going to enjoy it quite a bit. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, I think you've got to be like a single-digit age, or maybe 14 at the most. And any older than that, you're not going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Picture quality-wise, I've heard some people dog on this a little bit. They say it's still good overall. I didn't notice anything wrong with it. I thought it looked really good, and it sounds just like the first movie. There's good use of the surround sounds. The voice of the new April actor, for some reason, is lower in the mix than everyone else. I had trouble understanding what she said, but that was my only little gripe. I'll also take this moment to say, I don't like the score in these movies. It's adequate, and I know some people are fans of the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I like the theme, but a better composer could have really helped these movies out, and I'll stand by that. This movie, I'm going to be a little bit nice and give it a 5 because I could get through it. Everything up until the last 20 minutes was absolutely watchable, and I had every reason to think it was going to resolve nicely. The last 20 minutes were so dumb that I was still interested, because I was like, what the hell? And then it was over, and, you know, these movies are only 90 minutes long, so it didn't, like, offend me. So I'm going to give it a 5. The picture and the sound quality from Arrow are both good. The packaging, like I said, is good. I'll give the picture quality for this one a B+, and I'll give the sound a B+. But then we get to the third movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 is a movie I would never have watched if it weren't in this box set and I didn't feel like I should review it. And the only thing I had looking forward to this is that someone gave me the soundtrack CD of this movie a long, long time ago. And it has Tarzan Boy, I think by Kajagoogoo. Is that who did Tarzan Boy? I could be wrong. And I love that song. So I was like, well, if nothing else, I know that's on the soundtrack, so I'll enjoy watching the Turtles kick ass to Tarzan Boy. That'll be fun. It only happens at the very end, and it's very briefly, and it's not to any fight scene. It's just playing in the background in a bar scene. I was so disappointed that Tarzan Boy doesn't get utilized better than that. This movie freaks me out. I really don't even know how to describe it. It's not one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I can't say that. It's not. I'm just like, why? Why make this movie at all? It's clearly a budget cut movie. I mean, the faces look silly. Henson Company is no longer involved. When it gets to the third film, it's a different company. They're not as good. The heads jerk a lot. The animatronics that move the mouths are so violent that you see like shaking of the heads constantly, and it kind of pulls you out of the movie a lot. And the turtles just look goofy a lot, and not in a good way. That I could let go, though. I don't usually... A movie's effects can't be so bad that I'll not like the movie for them. I think this movie, from what I was able to research watching people talk about the making of it, it just had too many cooks. The original creators that Ben mentioned earlier tonight, do you remember their names, Ben?
Just Kevin Eastman.
Well, the two guys that started the comic books, they did not like the second one. So they got more involved with the third, and they had things they wanted done. And the producers had their ideas of things they wanted done. And then they brought in yet another director who also wanted things done. And the result, I think, was that the film didn't have strong guidance. It didn't have like a strong sense of purpose. The turtles just arbitrarily end up back in time in feudal Japan in like 1603. And like the way that they go back in time is stupid. They like have a magic scepter or some shit that April finds at like a Goodwill or God knows what. And when they get there, they like discover that like there's bad feudal Japanese people fighting good feudal Japanese people, and they feel like they need to help them, even though really they just need to get back home after they rescue April. Like the story is muddled. They brought back the character of Casey, played by Elias Koteas, but he stays in the modern day with Splinter, and you hardly ever see him in Splinter in the movie. But they also have him playing a different character in 1603 feudal Japan, who they also don't do hardly anything with. So Elias Koteas is brought back for no reason at all that I can tell. They also brought back Corey Feldman, who did not do the voice of Donatello in the second one because he was in rehab. That's going to happen if you're Corey Feldman. But he was back, and he did come back for this one, and it helps a little bit because I did actually miss Corey Feldman's voice. I think he's really good as a turtle. This movie, just, you never care. The bottom line is you just never care. The humor's somewhat there. The action might be marginally better than the other two movies, but there's not as much of it in the third movie. Arrow's picture quality is really good. This movie looks great. It's a shame sometimes that marginal films like this can look so amazing, but it does look great. It might be the best looking of the three. And it also sounds really good. It's got as good of an immersive surround sound 5.1 track. But the movie itself, I'm just like, I hear a lot of people hate on it. I'm just going to give it a 4. I don't have like a lot of hatred for it. I just didn't like it. Like I didn't want to finish watching it. And that feeling crept in like before 10 minutes in. I was like, ooh. You can tell 10 minutes in if a movie doesn't have a strong guiding hand, like a reason to exist, you know? And don't be fooled by this turtle hugging this kid, because this movie ain't that emotional. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, I don't know anyone who likes it, and I was hoping against hope that I'd be the first person I knew to not hate it, and I don't hate it, but I sure as hell don't like it. And that's my review.
This is the lowest score on the show so far.
Hey, it'll happen. It'll happen. Happier topics. Ray Harryhausen. And I think we're going to do a little bit of show and tell here, Dave. Do you want to go first? Because you've got something pretty cool to show people.
Sure, I'll go first. So this is an autographed photo from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. This is the Cyclops that Ray Harryhausen animated. And I've got a little story about how I got that autograph. I went to a convention in Louisville, Kentucky. That was a hours-long drive. The whole family went and stayed at a hotel. I waited in line to see Ray Harryhausen, I think, for about 5 hours to get that autograph. Mm. The line went out the door and around the building.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember, like, you know, having a migraine from, like, driving so long, getting up so early, standing in this line. And I think it was about the only thing I did that day at the convention was get his autograph. I got to talk to him for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, you know, and
do you remember anything you said?
I don't remember a thing I said. I was so tired. And then
I'm the same way with every celebrity I've ever met. I don't remember. I met Woody Harrelson, asked him some questions. I don't remember a thing I said or he said.
That night, I go to bed. I get up the next morning. The kids come in the room. They're jumping on the bed, you know, and I'm like, get out of here, go downstairs, get breakfast. I think they were like 12 and 10. And so they go downstairs, they get breakfast. They come back like an hour later, and they've got Ray Harryhausen autographs on napkins. And they're telling me about all the stories that he told them while they sat and joined him for breakfast that morning. And they didn't have to wait in line at all.
But you got a nice photo.
I did, yeah.
It's better than a napkin.
I guess.
I'll show what I've got. It's not quite as cool as what Dave's got, because I would like to have an autograph of Mr. Harryhausen, and I never will now. But I always wanted a Bubo, and last year, with some Christmas money, I got a life-size Bubo from Clash of the Titans. And he's real sparkly and real pretty, and I love him. My nickname growing up was Boo Boo. And when I saw this movie in the theaters, whenever they said Bubo, I thought they were saying Boo Boo. So I kind of identified with this owl for more reasons than one. But he takes up a prized place in the Shermer Cinema mantle these days. What can we say about Ray Harryhausen? I don't want to do too much because I don't honestly know a whole lot. I know he was inspired by Willis O'Brien's work on King Kong to do special effects, to create... I guess he didn't create it, but he popularized stop motion animation more than anyone else. Don't you think that's fair to say?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's fair to say, yeah.
And filmmakers who ended up making all the stuff we love from the 70s and 80s, they grew up watching the stuff Harryhausen did in the 50s and 60s. And a lot of them say that Ray Harryhausen, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and Jason and the Argonauts, I think probably the two most cherished, were the ones that really kind of hooked them and inspired them to become technicians and artists and storytellers all alike. Harryhausen himself was not a writer or a director, or he got associate producer credit on some movies. Mm-hmm. He was really just the effects artist who brought these characters to life, but I think he had a lot of sway with the producers he worked with and what stories they were going to make. Like, they worked closely with him. He really did more than just effects, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he kind of had a unique position, you know, in how much influence he had, and the fact that a lot of times he was the one doing the storyboards, he was doing the production art, and I think a lot of what I think he kind of dictated like what the story was capable of.
And he had a good relationship with Charles Schneer. They did 7 films together.
Yeah.
And the directors of the Harryhausen movies are kind of just directors for hire. They're not like auteurs. Most of them didn't have a whole lot of other films to their credits. They were the directors that Schneer and Harryhausen could control. basically get them to do what they wanted. And there's a place for that. I'm not trying to disrespect the people who directed these films. It's just, if you make a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie today, it's about the same kind of thing, because the people in charge of those studios, you're doing what they want. You're not really able to do your own thing. And when you do your own thing, you end up with a Last Jedi that everyone hates.
not everyone, but
that's another story. Anything else about Ray Harryhausen before we go to the first movie, guys, that you want to mention?
Well, so yeah, like I think he was 13 when he saw King Kong, and he was influenced by that, and he just pretty much hit the ground running very early on, and he was doing his own stop motion films, which were really impressive. Even the early stuff that was all entirely stop motion, and he met Willis O'Brien very early too, and he gave him some pointers, and he met Ray Bradbury in a science fiction club that he went to weekly, like when Bradbury was struggling to get his work published. And then in World War II, he worked in Harryhausen worked in the Army Signal Corps making stop motion Army instructional videos, and he passed the war that way. And he worked alongside Dr. Seuss. They were in the same,
And while he was making those instructional videos for the military, he was also working on his own projects, kind of like stealthily on the government's dime. He was like making little shorts of fairy tales.
Yeah.
And I actually got to see, he did a whole series of those. I think there was like maybe 6 or 7. And then he had like 2 or 3 more that were unfinished. And he eventually finished those much later in life. And I actually got to see those. I got to see like the premiere of those at that convention.
It was just fascinating to me that all these just absolute monolithic storytelling personalities, he's just rubbing shoulders with them. It had to have been a different time, you know, for this many personalities to coalesce just by coincidence. But
and I think it's really hard for people today to put themselves back in time to what it was like for audiences in the 50s when Harryhausen's work really became popular. Like today, we think claymation and stop motion animation are kind of quaint and silly even. But back then, it legitimately blew people away.
Yeah. I mean, now there's like, well, Scott knows that when you and I were kids, there were whole magazines devoted to telling you how these things were done. There were magazines like Starlog and, Fantastic Cinema and things like that. And they would kind of like tell you how all this was done behind the scenes. But in the 50s, those magazines didn't exist. And so people really did not know how these things were done. And a lot of it was kind of like, it was like magic tricks. A magician doesn't tell how they do the trick. And so a lot of people didn't know how this stuff was accomplished.
Another cool thing about Harryhausen is that he basically quit working after Clash of the Titans in 1981. But he lived a long time after that. So for decades, because I don't think he died till the 2000s, did he?
No.
He had at least 20 years after he retired, where he basically was just, he was like celebrated for decades. He won award. People give him lifetime achievement awards, and filmmakers talked about him all the time. You can find all kinds of interviews all over YouTube with Ray Harryhausen, and he does commentary tracks for a lot of these movies because the DVDs came out before he passed, and he was involved with all of them. So he got to reap the rewards of being a revered Hollywood veteran who contributed in a substantial way to the art form. So I feel like that's a pretty good introduction to Harryhausen's work. We'll move on to the first film that we're going to talk about. The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. This was the first Harryhausen movie in color. I think before then he had done 20 Million Miles to Earth, and Earth versus the Flying Saucers, and what's 20,000 something?
The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Yes, that
one of my favorites.
I like all of those, but I didn't like them as much as I liked any of the ones we're talking about tonight. But those were all in black and white, and I think all of them came out before Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Seventh Voyage, we lost our picture. I'll bring it back.
funny little tidbit I learned about The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is that the studio that was producing it had ripped off of Ray Bradbury's story, and without realizing, like, they had ripped it off from him, they brought him in to write the script for it. And he's like, wait, so this is my original short story, right, that you're trying to adapt? And they just deer in headlights, and finally they just decided to buy the rights from him. But
Robert is saying his work on Earth versus Flying Saucers is never really talked about. It's so ahead of its time as most of his work. Well, I would say it was ahead of its time until the 80s. After Star Wars, this kind of technology became outdated, unfortunately. But we'll get into more of that, I think, when we talk about Clash, maybe. But Sinbad, it was the first time it was color, and I think it was like the difference between how much the studios pushed this movie in marketing was night and day. Like, those other 3 movies were little movies that hardly made a blip. Seventh Voyage was a big freaking deal compared to all the Harryhausen movies before it. So it was on everyone's radar, and it must have been a big hit. I didn't look to see what it did box office-wise, but it's just a perennial film that's never been forgotten, and it's just revered by so many people. It was directed by Nathan Duran, who Harryhausen said was one of the best directors that he ever worked with, liked working with him a lot. Duran also directed 20 Million Miles to Earth and First Men in the Moon, which we'll talk about later. The stars of this movie are Kerwin Matthews, who you see on the left there. Catherine Grant is the lead female role. Richard Eyre plays the little genie, who's a child. And Torrin Thatcher plays the villain in the movie. This is the one that put Harryhausen on the map. It wasn't his first big movie, but this was like a huge big deal, as I was saying. It was the first movie to bear the name Dynamation. Does anyone want to try and explain what Dynamation is?
I mean, as I understand it, it's a way of compositing various shots, like a rear projection background and live action foreground and stop motion.
Yeah, the live action is the stop motion.
Well, yeah, yes and no. He combined live action with stop motion as a separate composite. So
they would shoot the actors, and he would project the actors onto a screen that he would also have behind or sometimes in front of the stop motion models, and he would move the frames of the already shot footage like one frame at a time, while he also moved the stop motion models one frame at a time. And no one else had done that. I guess Willis O'Brien did for stuff like King Kong, but like it wasn't a widely utilized technology until Harryhausen popularized it. But Dynamation you'll see as touted on all the posters and trailers for most of the Harryhausen movies after Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and including it. This movie's got a lot of Harryhausen stuff in it. The Cyclops seems to be one of everybody's favorite creatures. And there's also a big dragon. And
the dragon was my favorite.
There are some vulture-like birds. And there's a snake woman. The snake woman I always thought looked bad. I don't care for the snake woman. I'm sorry, Ray Harryhausen in heaven above. I love everything you've done, but the snake woman's not one of my favorites. Everything else is really cool, though. The story is basically Sinbad. He's coming back to town to get married to Catherine Grant, but there's this evil character played by Torrin Thatcher who they rescue on an island from the Cyclops, but he wants to go back to the island of the Cyclops because there's a lamp, like Aladdin's lamp, only it's not Aladdin, that the genie will come out and grant you wishes. He knows that lamp is there. I think he was stealing it from the Cyclops, if I remember correctly. So he wants to go back to the island. Sinbad doesn't want to go back to the island. He wants to be with Catherine Grant. But Torrin finagles everything, and they end up going back. Only after the bad guy shrinks Catherine Grant down to itty-bitty size, like you just saw in the pillow there. But the rest of the characters don't know that it was Torrin Thatcher's character who did that. So he's never good. He's bad from the start, but he keeps it a secret from everyone how bad he is until I think somewhere in the third act when it becomes obvious. And then they're already on the island, and then they have to escape, not just from Torrin Thatcher, but from the Cyclops again, and from the dragon that's also in the cave. And he has to fight some skeletal warrior that Torrin Thatcher brings to life. And that's basically it. It's an old, rip-roaring fantasy adventure in the classic sense. And it's just a fun movie. That's one of the things I'm going to say about all the movies tonight. They're not deep. They're not heady. They're not cerebral. I'm not even sure if they're nuanced. But they're fun. And I had a lot of fun rewatching most of them over the last 2 weeks. They're like a warm blanket for me. I didn't see any of them in the theater except for Clash of the Titans, but I've discovered all of them in the years since. And while none of them are like, I would say, my favorite movies, I really do genuinely enjoy watching them again every like 5 or 6 years. There's just something about the pre-Star Wars innocence of filmmaking back then that I find so refreshing. And they're really colorful. And the music in all the movies that we're talking about tonight is really good. And if you've watched this show before, you know how much the scores mean to me. This one was scored by Bernard Herrmann. It's one of 4 films that Harryhausen did where Herrmann did the score. And this one's widely regarded the best of the Harryhausen-Herrmann scores. It was a very valuable soundtrack for a very long, long time before Varese Sarabande re-recorded it and put it out on CD maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Anybody got any personal connections to this movie they want to talk about before I have some trivia about it?
No, this is my first time seeing it for the show, but I just the whole time I'm watching, I'm just thinking it's just like a sister film to Jason and the Argonauts. It feels so similar, and I'm just shocked I haven't discovered it sooner because Harryhausen films always had a special place in my heart ever since I was a kid. So it was kind of I guess thrilling to discover a major classic in his filmography.
I feel like this one of all the films we're going to talk about tonight is like the most family oriented.
Yeah,
like
I was gonna say that I actually remember seeing it as a kid and thinking it was a kid's movie, like seeing it on Saturdays and thinking it was not a Saturday morning cartoon, but like that kind of vibe, like it was aimed at children.
Yeah, it definitely. All of these movies are Saturday matinee type movies.
Yeah.
And I think kids would enjoy all of them. Jason and the Argonauts might be the most, and First Men's kind of mature too, but this one I just feel like is the most for kids. And I kind of love that joyful, youthful, it's just so colorful and bouncy and bright and fun. And I love the Herrmann score. Dun, 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 dun. That opening title's like every time I start this movie, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. We're getting in the ship and we're going places with Sinbad. I dig it. And I'll tell you some more reasons why I dig it when I go through this trivia. This was the first feature using stop motion animation effects to be shot completely in color. I think I mentioned that already. The roar of the Cyclops is identical to the roar of the id monster in Forbidden Planet. And upon retiring from acting in 1978, Kerwin Matthews, who plays Sinbad, moved to San Francisco and opened an antique and clothing store. Having met in 1961, Matthews shared 46 years of his life with his partner, Tom Nicole, until Kerwin's 2007 death at the age of 81. So Sinbad was a homo. That means that, I mean, when I learned that meant a lot to me because I'm gay, and growing up, you didn't have anyone but Elton John and Liberace to like look up to. So in the 90s, people started to come out more. And I remember, like, shortly after I came out, Clive Barker came out. And I was like, oh, man, I love Clive Barker. I've read his books. And I was like, it meant so much to have, an out, someone to look up to, a hero who's like me in some way. And so when I found out Kerwin Matthews was gay and he was allowed to be this studly leading man at the same time, I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome. So, hooray for gay old Sinbad. And on that note, we'll go to Jason and the Argonauts. Let's give it a score. Let's try to score all these guys. Ben, what do you want to give the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad?
I don't want to go first. You guys go first.
Oh, then Dave has to go first.
For nostalgic reasons, I think I would give it an 8.
Dave gives it an 8.
That's your 8.
Oh, well, you know what? I give it a 7. I'm tempted to give it an 8 for nostalgia reasons, and I do kind of have a soft spot for this movie, but I'm going to go with the 7. Dave's going to give it an 8, and I think that makes me feel better that one of us gives it an 8.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 as well.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Well, fuck, you guys are making me feel like this shitty one among the bunch now. I really do like this movie, though. I really do. But, yeah, I'll keep my 7, though. But it's a proud, wonderful 7. And there are some proud, wonderful 5s and 6s in my collection as well. But now we'll go to Jason and the Argonauts. Ben, would you like to synopsize this movie at all, since it's one of your favorites?
Absolutely. So this is a retelling of the classic legend of Jason and the Argonauts traveling to the ends of the earth to recover the mythical golden fleece.
Right there on screen.
Right there, yeah. So the story starts with this. I guess I don't think he was a king himself of any land. He just wanted to overthrow the kingdom of Thessaly and claim it for himself. And this is Polius, the guy who just stabbed there. He wants to take over the kingdom of Thessaly and in Greece, and which is something that he was being awarded by Zeus. We don't know why, but just Zeus ordained that he would inherit that kingdom, but that he would lose it at the hands of the progeny of his predecessor, Aristo. And Aristo had 2 daughters and a son, Jason. So when he's sacking Thessaly, Polius finds one of Jason's sisters in the temple of Hera. Well, both his sisters. One's an infant, the other one's a young woman. And she's praying to Hera for protection. And Polius finds her, and it's like this really dark moment where, my wife and I are watching it, and even she was like, "Oh wow!" Where Polius says, "Is she praying to Hera for protection?" Because Hera appears in the temple, and he assumes that she's just another priestess of the temple. And she says, "Is she appealing to Hera for protection?" She said, "Yes." She says, "Well, pray for me too," and just stabs her. And she just reveals, "Oh, by the way, it was Jason who was going to usurp you," and he said that he'll come to you as a one-sandaled man. And so for 20 years ensuing, Polius was just paranoid, patrolling the roads looking for this one-sandaled man. Hera appears. He gets thrown off his horse into a lake, and Jason, who just happens to be there, jumps in and rescues him. And he's wearing one sandal, and Polius knows this and asks him what he's doing there. He says, "Well, I'm here to overthrow Polius." He doesn't recognize that he is Polius. And he said that I plan on getting the golden fleece of mythic lore and using it to overthrow Polius. And Polius says, "Great idea. That's on the other side of the world. So I think you should just go there and get as far away from me as possible." He can't kill him outright.
He can't kill him. He's not allowed.
Yeah, the gods said that you can't do that. So he sends him on this, or he tells him to go on this expedition. And he sends his son, Acacius, with them, Polius does, to kind of keep an eye on things. And it's interesting because Jason ends up kind of conferring with Hermes unknowingly, who's kind of like he seemed to be like an advisor to Polius, or posing as one. And then they kind of have a moment where they talk together, and Jason makes it clear that he doesn't believe or respect the gods, and then Hermes just takes them to Olympus and introduces them all. And they say, "Well, you're going to go on this expedition for the Golden Fleece, and what can we give you?" He said, "Well, can I give you a ship and a crew?" And he says, "No, I can get that myself." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so he organizes a games to recruit his crew, and he gets the shipwright Argus to build him a ship worthy of a trip to the end of the world, and names it after him, the Argo, and hence Argo and the Argonauts. And yeah, they set sail. And so Hera is able to help him 5 times on his journey, because that's how many times his sister appealed to Hera before she was murdered. And Zeus says that's the limited number of times you can help him.
And she appears throughout the movie as the masthead on the ship.
Yes, yeah. And he burns through those wishes pretty quick.
He does.
They run out of water. Like, first thing in the journey, they run out of water, and she says, okay, you can go to this island, but don't touch anything there beyond water and food. Like, it doesn't belong to you. Or else Talos will come after you. And he tells his crew this, including Hercules, who's on his crew. But Hercules and Hylas, who was recruited for his brains, they find a den of treasure underneath a statue, a mammoth, a titanic statue of Talos. And they take a giant brooch pin from there. And Hercules says, oh, this is going to be a great weapon. Well, Talos wakes up and hijinks ensue. They have a big ordeal trying to escape him, and then Jason burns through another wish to alleviate this totally avoidable situation to kill Talos. And so they fell him, and they continue. Then he asks for another wish to like figure out where they should, if Hylas is dead.
That one was a particularly wasteful wish.
Yeah. And then, she kind of like wrapped it into a new, giving him more direction to this other island where.
Since you're a dumbass wasting wishes, I'll give you a freebie.
Freebie. So she says, okay, this next island you have to look for the blind man, Phineas, who was a prophet, a seer who abused his gift, and Zeus punished him by blinding him and having him harangued by harpies every meal that he eats every night. Yeah. And so they arrive there, and Phineas says, well, I'll tell you what you need to know if you rid me of these harpies. And so they have a whole cool scene where they fight the harpies. And then in gratitude, Phineas gives them directions to the Clashing Rocks, which is kind of the gateway to Kalkis, which is the land where the Golden Fleece is on the end of the world. And the Clashing Rocks, even though he's already out of... Phineas even tells him, oh, if you don't have any protection of the gods, you're not making it through here. And there was kind of a mix where Phineas had gifted him like an idol sort of thing, in addition to the fact that Hera said, okay, she just bent the rules anyway to help him and called in a favor from Poseidon to hold the Clashing Rocks back. Mm-hmm. And they sail through, and finally they arrive at Kalkis. And, there's another ship that ends up Another ship that didn't make it through the Clashing Rocks. And one of the survivors of that ship was Medea, who is a priestess.
A woman.
Yeah. Who's a priestess of Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft in Greco-Roman mythology. And they
leave out a lot of the witchcraft part in the movie. In order to have a happy ending, you kind of have to leave out a lot of the witch stuff.
But so then they become romantically, I guess, attracted. They don't really go into it much, just that even my wife was like, oh my god, they just meet.
I don't think they saw very many people back then, so if you saw a woman on an adventure, that was going to be your wife.
So Jason goes in I would say reasonably good faith to appeal to find a way to get the Golden Fleece, or else he said he would resort to stealing it. Before they arrive at Kalkis, though, Acastus pretty much makes his true colors known. Jason realizes that Pelias was who he was, and realizes that Acastus is his son. And so they have a swashbuckling confrontation on the ship, and Acastus is thought to be dead from that, but he turns out to be very much alive, and it's revealed that he betrayed Jason to the king Aeetes of Kalkis, who's just not having anything that Jason wants, and locks him up. Medea springs him from prison.
Jason has to fight the original bad guy's son, who was with him the whole way. Then he has to fight the Hydra.
Yeah.
And he has to fight his woman's dad, who's the ruler of the land.
Yeah.
But he never comes back to fight the original bad guy.
Right.
Who sent him on the adventure to start with.
Yes, finally it's resolved. He fights the Hydra, he gets the fleece. Well, then Aeetes kind of throws in the curveball with the skeleton warriors born from the Hydra's teeth that he plants in the ground, which is so cool. But after the skeleton fight, Zeus says, okay, well, I got other adventures for you. And the film ends.
And then the credits roll.
Back to ever confront Pelias or get the kingdom back. You just assume it happens.
I liked this movie, but the thing that stuck with me that I didn't like was that it's missing an ending.
Yeah.
Because they spend, I don't know, that first act before they even embark on the adventure, that's like 20 minutes, isn't it? Like, before they get on the Argo and go away?
Yeah.
So, like, the first 20 of the minutes has no bearing on the rest of the movie, except that the son's with them and fights them, but they never go back with the fleece, and they never have that final fight with that original bad guy. And I think I read somewhere that they just kind of ran out of money and time, and so they had to cut something. I mean, the movie still kind of works without it, but it's like, yeah, that was sort of the whole purpose of the movie, wasn't it?
I remember being in the store a long time ago. And
store? What store?
I don't know. A grocery store, maybe a Walmart of old or something, but I ended up seeing the VHS tape, which has a picture of Jason and Medea and the Hydra. And I remember just focusing on the Hydra and being like, that's so cool. And this was one of my repeat reruns as a kid on tapes.
Yeah, the Hydra is definitely a highlight of the movie, and I think the Hydra might even be better than anything from Seventh Voyage. Like, it's probably my favorite of all the stuff in these two movies we've discussed so far. It's not got a whole lot of screen time, but it's memorable. I also wanted to say Don Chaffee is the director of this movie, who did a lot of TV, but the movie he's well known for is Pete's Dragon from Disney. This stars Todd Armstrong as Jason, Nancy Kovac as Medea, Gary Raymond as Acastus, Lawrence Naismith as Argos, and you'll see Lawrence Naismith in another movie later tonight. And Honor Blackman plays Hera. Do you guys know what character Honor Blackman is very famous for playing in the James Bond franchise?
No.
Pussy Galore. Honor Blackman, Hera in this movie, plays Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. So any chance to say Pussy Galore, I'm going to take it. Now, Ben, I know you love this movie, and like I said, I like it too, so I'm not going to be too hard on it. But it also has a lot of bad acting in it. Like, it doesn't hurt the movie that much because Matinee Serial can withstand a lot of bad acting. But I think part of the reason that the acting comes off so wooden is that the leads are all dubbed. I found this out in looking at trivia on IMDb. The voice of Todd Armstrong is dubbed by British actor Tim Turner. The voice of Nancy Kovac, who plays Medea, was dubbed by Eva Haddon, an actress well known on BBC Radio. And it looked like a whole lot of the supporting cast were also dubbed over by other actors. So that always makes for kind of wonky performances when you have one actor appearing on screen and another actor actually providing the voice. But man, one of the themes you'll see through all these movies is that all the leading men are kind of hunks. They're all very attractive, which I love that. That's a good plus in a movie. If you're going to show me a movie and if I start getting bored, at least give me somebody pretty to look at, you know? But a couple of them can't act so much. Curran Matthews, he could act all right. But this guy I thought was really driftwood. And the son, the evil guy's son that's along the journey, I thought he was really particularly bad too. The Zeus was kind of fun. He was like a real laid back kind of Zeus. It's like, yeah, all of this is just my whims. You're not gonna defend the acting of your favorite movie.
It's that is a fair criticism.
I also saw that it took Harryhausen 4 months to produce the skeleton attack.
Yeah.
That's a lot of characters all moving at the same time that he had to animate.
I think like that was kind of his average the time it took him to produce a lot of animated scenes. Like that one was definitely on the longer end, but it would take multiple months just to create one scene.
4 months for about 3 minutes of footage.
24 frames in a second. So
the Argo ship that they're on throughout most of the movie was built over a fishing boat, and it was powered by 3 large Mercedes engines that cost roughly 10% of the entire budget.
Wow.
They sold the ship to 20th Century Fox after filming, and it was later used on Cleopatra. And my last little bit of trivia has to do with the music. Composer Bernard Herrmann wrote the soundtrack without a string section. Now, I didn't notice this just watching the movie, but it's kind of neat to know afterwards. This leaves the brass and percussion to perform the heroic fanfares, and the woodwinds as additional instruments, such as a harp, and additional instruments like a harp to dominate in the more subtle and romantic parts. Doing a score without strings is kind of unheard of. Like, strings do a lot of the heavy lifting in all scores, generally. And then it's interesting, especially because later he would do Psycho, where he only used strings. No woodwinds, percussion, or brass in that score. So I don't know if that was just Bernard Herrmann having a little bit of an autistic brain where he wanted to do things weird ways or what. But I thought it was interesting.
Well, it's kind of cool with this one, too, is they diegetically incorporated the cadence of the ship's drum into the score, and it kind of built tension here, and especially in the clashing rocks. That was really cool.
I saw this movie several years ago, and I remember just being indifferent to it. So I'm glad I watched it again because I did like it more this time. It's kind of a more grown-up version of Sinbad, I think. It's less childish. It's a little bit more serious.
It's definitely dark. Yeah, that part there. That I keep forgetting how shocking that is, but
I'll go first on this one with the score, unless you guys have anything else you want to say about Jason and the Argonauts.
I was just going to say that as a kid, I had the opposite reaction to this movie that I had to the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. I thought this movie was actually kind of creepy, especially Talos. For some reason, Talos really freaked me out when I was a kid.
As a kid, just the part where his blood's pouring out of his ankle, he's gripping his throat. I remember that freaked me out as a kid.
That was red cellophane.
Really?
Harryhausen animated. I read that somewhere today. I just thought it was fluid.
Yeah.
Somehow it was fluid. But if it was stop motion, I guess it couldn't have been. Well, then I will give it my little score. If I can, I got to make sure not to give it the wrong score, guys, because I am really developing a bad reputation of picking the wrong numbers from like Dave's numbers or Ben's numbers. It's always Dave. I think I want to be Dave in another life or something.
You
Here's
should.
my score. I give it a 6. I liked it, but not immensely. Mostly because I don't like the characters that much. But it is a fun adventure, and it's colorful, and it's fun, and the music's good, and the effects are great. The effects are... I like the effects better than Seventh Voyage of Sinbad because they feel more real. The design of the creatures in Seventh Voyager is a little bit more childish. But it works for that movie, and this has a different tone. Do one of you want to give it a score? Something tells me Ben likes it more than a 6, don't you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. It would be higher if they resolved the story better, but...
Is this your favorite of the Harryhausens still?
It's definitely... It's at least tied with Clash of the Titans. That was the other one that I watched on repeat as a kid.
Dave, what do you give it?
I would fall in the middle with a 7.
Ta-da! Hey, I did it right! I gave us all the right color and the numbers. I did it all. That's a big deal for me because I fuck it up all the time. So that's Jason and the Argonauts. Now we're going to move on. First Men in the Moon. I have a soft spot for this one.
Really?
And I don't really know why. First Men in the Moon came out in 1964, just 1 year after Jason and the Argonauts. It was a reunion with the director of Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Nathan Duran. The stars are Edward Judd, who a few years later would appear in a hilarious British horror movie called Island of Terror with Peter Cushing, which I adore, even though it's really an awful movie. I just adore that little awful movie. Martha Heyer is in this. Lionel Jeffries from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Camelot is the third lead. It's really just these 3 actors. So we've got like a guy and a girl, and they love each other, and they have this wacky neighbor who has invented a spaceship. And they serendipitously all end up getting blasted into... Well, I guess it's not too serendipitous, but they all decide to go on the spaceship. They go to the moon in the spaceship. When they land on the moon, they discover a civilization of like insectoid moon creatures. I can't remember what they call them.
They're called Selenites.
Selenites.
Selenites, yeah.
Selenites. Somethinites. And one of the guys, the lead guy, Edward Judd, is antagonistic towards the Selenites. He's a little fearful of them. The guy who built the spaceship, who's a wacky little character, kind of gets on my nerves, actually, because he's so over the top at times. He wants to, like, learn and talk and really, like, be with these moon creatures. Give them every benefit of the doubt. So there's a little bit of a differing philosophy between the two men. And the woman's kind of just a damsel in distress, unfortunately. That's what a lot of women were relegated to in these days,
Just get
unfortunately.
stuck in the glove box for like,
Yeah.
the second half of the movie, literally.
Part of you wonders, like, why take her with you to the moon at all? But anyway.
Her character is not in the original story. Like they just had, you know.
You got to put a woman in the movie.
Yeah.
You just got to. But it's kind of a simple story, and it kind of hints at some themes. Like, how would you approach another alien civilization if you met it? Would you be friendly? Would you be antagonistic? To what extent would you let your fear govern your reaction? But it doesn't really get too deep into any of that to make this like a really heady, really memorable, groundbreaking movie. Like I said about the other films, it's just a fun adventure movie, ultimately. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful of the three we've talked to, for me anyway. It's the first widescreen. Actually, it's the only widescreen CinemaScope anamorphic movie that Harryhausen ever did. And I love when I can watch a movie in my home theater that fills the whole screen, because Tangent, my screen, is height fixed. So when I watch a 185 movie, the left and right of my screen are blank. And when I watch a 235:1 movie, it fills the screen the way it's supposed to. Not like movie theaters today are, and not like most people build their home theaters. What's the point of widescreen if it's not going to be more impressive? But I digress. Higher, the lead woman here, was Oscar nominated for Some Came Running, a movie shot right here in Madison, Indiana, where I'm at this very moment. And she also appeared in The Sons of Katie Elder, Houseboat, and Sabrina. This is, like I said, the only Harryhausen film shot in scope. And they wanted Bernard Herrmann to do the score for this one, but guess what? Bernie asked for more money. And they said no to Bernie. But you know what? It didn't hurt the movie any, because Laurie Johnson came in and did a great score for this movie. It's just as good as a Herrmann score, honestly. I really liked it. And I just enjoy this movie. I don't, there's nothing deep about it. Sometimes, you know, when I was in a video art class at Indiana University, there were like 12 students, and we would all do a piece of video art. And everyone in the class but me would do like something deep and meaningful that you would have to discuss the meaning of during our little weekly get-togethers. And I just did, I don't know, cool, pretty little things. And no one ever had anything to say about what I did. So I thought that I sucked in that class, and that I was probably going to get the worst grade in the class because nothing I did was meaningful, because no one talked about it. But they gave out a scholarship at the end of that class, and I was the one who got it. So that kind of reminds me of this movie. I mean, I'm tooting my own horn. How sound like a braggart, but I guess what I'm just saying is that sometimes a movie doesn't have to be deep or meaningful to just be fun and something that you appreciate. And this is just a trip that I like to take every so often. I like to get on this spaceship with these wacky Brits, go to the moon, see the insect people, see the pretty crystals, hear the pretty music, and come back again. I dig it. What do you guys think of First Men in the Moon? It
was actually probably one of my, I think of the three movies that we've talked about so far, this was my favorite of the three when I was a kid. It kind of combined like a Disney vibe and the Time Machine, which I actually saw the original Time Machine. I saw right before I saw this movie. And
they are similar.
They are similar. And the Selenites really creep me out.
They're cool.
They're cool.
Yeah, this was my first time seeing it. I actually just read the book
Was
within
it
the
better
last
or
year
worse
so.
than Back to the Future?
Better.
Even I wouldn't go that far, but go on, Ben.
But so, and it kind of threw me for a loop because it starts out where it's like the UN mission, the multinational mission, and like modern day at the time it was shot, landing on the moon. And I thought that we were going to go a whole different route from the 19th century story. Like, a lot of the War of the Worlds stuff did that. And I was like, oh no. But then they find the Union Jack on the surface, and I was like, oh, okay. And then they do go back to 1899.
It does borrow. It borrows from the World of the World's ending.
Yeah.
War of the World's ending, and I'm wondering if that's in the book because I haven't read the story.
No, it wasn't. So what's interesting is a lot of Caver's interactions with the Selenites in the book is kind of an epilogue. It's kind of like they go there, they run through the galleries of beneath the moon, and they're just like more or less lost. The main character is just as much an asshole in the book as he is.
Really?
And Caver kind of has like, what are you doing? This is why are we... And the Selenites are kind of base their impressions of man on his actions.
So you've read the book?
Yeah.
And so Cavers, the character Cavers, the older man, he's like the main protagonist you're supposed to identify with in the book then, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
The other
that's
guy,
interesting because he's so silly in this movie. I want to relate with him more, but I feel like the movie's trying to make you relate more with the other guy.
He's a little bit silly in the book too, but yeah, he doesn't have like the cold they were talking about at the end. Like that was just straight up like War of the Worlds ending that just got shoehorned in there. The ending of the book is kind of like a lot of what his interactions with Selenites he conveys through intermittent broadcast back to Earth. But then the broadcast just goes silent the very moment that the Selenites realize like what he's about to do, talking to them about how they make Cavorite and things like that because they don't want humans on the moon at all.
Right.
And so it's just kind of a mystery of what happens to him after that.
Yeah,
I was kind of hoping with this new prologue that you would see what happens with the Selenites when the man gets there in earnest, and instead they're just like, oh no, they're all dead because War of the Worlds microorganism death. So
yeah, it kind of borrows the ending from War of the Worlds, which was about 9 years earlier, if I remember correct. What year that came out? I might be wrong.
But yeah, a lot of the themes, I guess, like the book was trying to get across. The book goes a lot more into like how like alien the Selenite or like civilization is, because they are essentially the same race, but they have different physiologies dedicated to specific tasks, all just serving the same civilization. And like so the conversation where he's like, isn't it confusing that you don't just have one leader, or how does that even work with democracy and things like that? So it goes into that, and it also goes into, like you were saying, the difference between, the human reactions of curiosity versus fear, and how each of the characters embodied that.
It waits till the third act to bring in a lot of its heady sci-fi and sociological components. I mean, this seems like a movie that you could remake today, and it might be interesting. Actually,
it's interesting because humans are the scary alien invaders in this movie. Because like the main character guy in the book, even he just talks about how easy it is for him to just mangle the Selenites because they're not used to Earth's gravity. They don't have the strength that he has because they didn't grow up in Earth's gravity, and so he's just smashing them like jelly and stuff like that. They describe in the book.
Well, Dave, you go first. What do you want to give this one out of 10?
I would also give this one an 8, just again out of nostalgic reasons. And this, like I said, of the three that we've talked about so far, this is my favorite.
I gotta go with a 7, but I do really like it.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Harryhausen effects, it would be a 6, but I got to go with a 7.
Ben, 7. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so we like that one too.
Yep.
Then we have the Valley of Gwangi.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm going to let Ben synopsize this while I go to the fridge and get a drink, because I'm out of beverage and I'm getting a little cotton mouth. So, bye now.
Yeah. I'll be a little bit more succinct with this one, because honestly, the premise is more succinct. It's just cowboys and dinosaurs.
There's not as much to say.
But this one I didn't watch as recently, but I mean, I watched it back in July when I went home to get married. But that's that was a special occasion watching Gwangi not getting married. But I'm kidding. I say that because my wife's listening. But yeah, so it's about this circus out in the West. I believe it takes place kind of in the Wild West days.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a traveling circus. It's kind of struggling. One of the previous performers ended up going off and making something of himself, and so he returns and he's trying to, I guess, headhunt some of the like his previous lover that's still working in the circus. And there's also a scientist, paleontologist running around, and they end up finding a tiny horse, which they believe is going to be kind of their next big act. And they find sort of a lost world
It's
where this
like
horse
this
came
big.
from.
It's
Yeah,
itty
it's
bitty.
very small. And they find this lost world where it came from, along with other prehistoric animals, and it's this lost Valley of Gwangi, where
It's called the Forbidden Valley.
the Forbidden Valley, yeah. And yeah, when they get there, they discover dinosaurs, including Gwangi, who's an Allosaurus, and there's a big fight scene with the Styracosaurus, which is kind of like the Triceratops with multiple spines, and and I mean, yeah, it's pretty.
Nerd.
And it's kind of the classic paradigm where they bring a creature back from the lost world to the mainland, if you will, the modern world, and it doesn't go as planned, and there's a massive just disaster in the city, and eventually Gwangi gets trapped, or they bring Gwangi back. Is that namely? It's the prehistoric creature.
All
they bring
King
back.
Kong like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all King Kong like. And they end up locking him in a church and burning it down, and it's just this like horrific scene. Like it felt
Yeah.
really drawn out, and it's just screaming as it's burning.
Yeah, I
And,
could kind of take or leave this movie until the last 20 minutes. Unlike one of the movies I talked about earlier, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the last 20 minutes of this movie were really strong, and it really kind of
Yeah.
made me like this movie a lot more than I would have otherwise.
So
It's a simpler story than
yeah, that's what I was saying.
any
It's
of the others,
more
isn't it?
succinct with this summary, just because it's just kind of cowboys and dinosaurs. But it also fit that theme. I was watching a interview with Harryhausen where he kind of creates the creatures as living, breathing things. They're not just monsters. And when it's burning the church like that, and kind of pointing the finger at man, like you did this with your greed, and
And it's true. I love animal movies, as you guys know, because I'm trying to get an animal-themed episode of the show. But I didn't think that this movie was going to try to make me empathize with the dinosaur until those last 20 minutes come up, because this animal was fine in its natural habitat. When they bring it into civilization, human civilization, things go nuts, and it's not its fault. And so when it's being attacked in the church and then burned alive, everyone's forced, all the characters and the audience are forced to just kind of sit there and watch it die a slow death. And you can tell that the filmmakers are trying to like make you think about this while it's happening. And it's like, well, shit, I don't want Gwangi to die. And that's cool. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, there was apparently a like the moment when they are lassoing Gwangi. I guess that's a milestone in compositing history.
Yeah,
That was
they set up a pole, and they had the cowboys actually rope a pole, and then Ray Harryhausen had to go back and animate Gwangi with wires coming off of his neck that matched each one of the ropes.
Yeah.
And then composite all that together. And he talks about how this is how this is one of his least favorite movies to work on in the end, because it ended up, it took over a year to do like 300 stop motion shots for this film. And when it was all said and done, the movie was not a hit at all. And he kind of felt like it was just a lot of work for not a lot of payoff in the end.
I expected it to be stupid. When you guys told me you wanted to watch it, I'm like, the Valley of Gwangi, what is that? And it's like cowboys and dinosaurs. And I'm like, seriously? I'm like, even for a Harryhausen movie, that sounds really childish. But as I was watching it, I was surprised how much time they spent with the human characters before getting to the valley. Not that it's like Jaws level deep of character study. It's not. But there's a little bit of a relationship between the two leads, James Franciscus, another hunk in a Harryhausen movie, and Gina Golan or Gila Golan. I don't know how you say her name. She sounds like a gremlin.
It's Gila. Yeah.
Gila Golan, who was dubbed by someone else, by the way. That's not her voice in the movie. But they had somewhat of a relationship, you know? Like, they were combative. They were like old, estranged lovers, and that's always fun to have on an adventure. It's kind of a trope nowadays. And, all the stuff in the middle was probably my least interesting part, like all the stuff in the Forbidden Valley, because I'm like, well, we've seen all this before. There's a lot of movies like this, King Kong and Jurassic Park after it. Yeah, all the stuff with the dinosaurs in the valley. I'm like, well, how many? I mean, we've seen human people fight Harryhausen creations over and over and over and over and over again. It's when the story gets compelling that these Harryhausen movies really leave an impression on me. And so the third act, when you start relating with the creature, like King Kong before it, that's when you got me.
The Allosaurus, the Allosaurus in like Gwangi, looks exactly like the early dinosaur films that Harryhausen did on his own when he was kind of teaching himself, and it was just really impressive to see, like, at this point, he was doing the same thing he was doing as a kid. That's how good he was right off the hop. And so it's kind of cool. You kind of get some deleted Gwangi footage watching those early films of his.
Part of the reason for that is because when a lot of the stuff in this movie is recycled. The budget was really tight, and the studio was kind of losing interest. The director was losing interest, and so there are establishing shots that are borrowed from other films because they didn't have enough money to shoot them. There are models that Ray Harryhausen used from previous projects that he reused for this movie, and he ended up making Gwangi kind of like out of a composite of old models. People always call it an Allosaurus, but it's not. It's not a like scientifically accurate Allosaurus, and he knew that, and he did that on purpose. He wanted it to be kind of like an other, and have it be a little, kind of borrowed from a T-Rex and some other dinosaurs, and he wanted it to be something that no one had ever, imagined before, and he thought it would be more sinister that way. He wanted to give it, a personality and make it intelligent, and so he borrowed some stuff from previous movies, and also the composer Jerome Moss he reused part of his score from The Big Country from 1956 in this film, also to save money.
Yeah.
The score I don't remember as much as the other films, but it didn't hurt the movie at all. I know that. I don't know. Any movie where I go in with low expectations and it exceeds them, that's always a good, fun time. And I like this James Franciscus guy. I think he's hot. I could watch him go into a lot of places with dinosaurs or whatever the fuck's in there,
Or apes. Wasn't he in Return of Planet of the Apes? Yeah.
He's in the second Planet of the Apes movie. And it's funny because when I first saw him in this movie, I'm like, he looks like the poor man's Charlton Heston.
And he is.
And he is. He is. He literally is. I hope we do an ape show because Beneath the Planet of the Apes is such an awesome bad movie. I just love that movie. Anyway, I don't want to go off a tangent on that one, but Beneath the Planet of the Apes is a movie I enjoy.
But yeah, by the time this was done, Ray Harryhausen was pretty disillusioned with it because movies like this had kind of like fallen out of favor by the time it was released. When it was in production, it was fine, and he mentions how, like, if it had been released 10 years earlier, he felt like it would have been one of his, more remembered films. But
he's probably right. I was going to also mention that Lawrence Naismith, who played the guy who built the ship in Argonauts, is in this one. The older guy that goes with them on the journey. That's him. Who wants to be the first to score this one?
I would give it a 7.
I'll go next. And you know what? I'm going to give it a 7. I have a soft spot for animals, and this dinosaur was an animal by the end of the movie. And
he really does have a personality.
And I love movies that have a climactic confrontation in a church. So I'm like, okay, you're catering to all my proclivities here, making me feel sorry for a monster in a church. Ben?
I got to give it an 8.
All right.
That's fair. That's fair.
My dinosaurs.
Like I said, these movies are they're not The Godfather. They're not even like Jaws or Jurassic Park, but they're like a warm blanket for me. They're comfort movies. All of these for me, except maybe Argonauts, just because it's a little more serious. I don't know. I feel like a kid when I'm watching them. And that's weird because I didn't grow up with any of them except Clash. But they all make me feel like a kid, like simpler times, like the world just fades away and you're just watching an old standard fashion fantasy adventure. I don't know. I dig it. I think we have one more. Clash of the Titans, 1981. Taking a big jump in time. I don't know what else Harryhausen did in the 70s, but I'm sure there was probably something. But for purposes of today's show, we jump to his last film. He helped and advised on some other films after Clash of the Titans, but this was the last one where he was credited as the effects artist. And it was also the first film where he had people helping him do the effects. I guess prior to this one, it was just him. But on this one, he needed help, and he got it. And I think the array of characters that he brought to life in this one is the best overall array. I love all these creatures in this movie. And I legitimately love this movie. I think it's the best cast of all the movies that were talked about tonight. I think it's got a score every bit as good as any of the other movies. A score by Lawrence Rosenthal, if I'm not mistaken. And it's pretty to look at, and I can watch this one like every 1 or 2 years, and I really, really enjoy it. Harry Hamlin, another hunk to look at while you're watching the whole thing go by. It caters to my whims. Did we agree to who was going to synopsize this one? I forget who was going to. Oh, we hadn't decided.
I mean,
I've seen it the most recently.
I was originally going to synopsize Gwangi, and I was going to do this. But I'm going to let Ben do this one too, because I watched Gwangi prior to the episode tonight, but I did not watch Clash of the Titans, and I probably haven't seen it in a really long time. And it should be synopsized by somebody who enjoyed it more than I did, because I don't like it as much as you do.
Oh man, Dave. I'm really legitimately shocked at that, because I would have bet good money that this was a movie you loved. Wow, it really surprises me.
I think the problem is that by the time I saw this movie, I kind of like, I don't know, maybe outgrew these, I guess, or I felt like I felt like I was too cool for school, and I thought my reaction was just the opposite of yours. I thought it was really poorly cast.
Oh.
I did not like Harry Hamlin. I didn't like. I think Burgess Meredith plays. Yeah, no, didn't like that at all. I thought Booba was silly. I thought the whole thing was kind of silly. I did love certain parts, like Medusa. I thought was amazing. But
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I knew that was coming. I was just waiting.
Breaking my heart, man. Do you want to try and synopsize it, Ben, or do you want me to?
I think we can tag team, because I know you also really enjoy the film. And
well, it starts off. Let's tag team. I've seen it within the last year. Perseus is our main character here, and Zeus pits him against Calibos, this ugly guy you see right here. And God, this is an episodic adventure, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard one to synopsize, to be honest. You want to cheat and go to IMDb?
Well, no, it's similar to Jason the Argonauts, and that's a retelling of an ancient myth. This one of Perseus, who saves Princess Andromeda, who's being sacrificed to the Kraken. Because I see, and it's been a little bit since I've seen this one too, so some of the details of the film itself might escape me. But this city that she's princess of, they kind of blasphemed and said that, they.
This synopsis on IMDb is kind of cute.
Oh,
Perseus is the favored son of Zeus, played by Laurence Olivier, but he has unwittingly ticked off the sea goddess Thetis, played by Dame Maggie Smith. Just to make things worse, Perseus falls in love with the lovely Princess Andromeda, played by Judy Bowker, who used to be engaged to Thetis' son Calibos, played by Neil McCarthy. Since Perseus is off on one quest after another with Zeus helping, Thetis hindering, and lots of innocent bystanders getting stabbed, drowned, and squished. That's the synopsis someone provided.
I read someone else's synopsis that included this line that I thought was hilarious, which is, "This is the story of Perseus, the son of Princess Danae." Is that how you pronounce it, Danae?
I don't know.
Who is impregnated by the Greek god Zeus in the form of a golden shower.
I don't think that has much to do with this movie. So let's just give it up that we're not going to be. This movie's got a lot of plot. Like there's a prelude, and the wheretofores of all this stuff is labyrinthine almost. But it's an adventure, and Perseus has to go to some witches to get some information, and they send him down to like the river Styx to get on the boat, and then he has to cut off Medusa's head, and he's aided along the way by a series of characters. It's like a real hero's journey thing. I was going to say, if there's anything I don't like about the movie, it's that it has too many subplots that have to be resolved by the end. Like Perseus has to vanquish Calibos and save his woman from the Kraken, that sacrifice, and they're not really related. Those two plots are not related. And I remember by the time he comes to Calibos and vanquishes him, I didn't care so much about Calibos anymore. I just wanted him to go rescue the princess from the Kraken. And wrapping up the Calibos subplot seemed like it was in the way. That was my one major criticism of this movie, is that maybe it's got a little too much plotting going on. But I dig the shit out of this movie, and Dave's wrong. Dave is bad and wrong and needs to see this movie again. I think he would like it a lot if he saw it again recently. And I think this movie hit me at the right time, because I was only maybe 7. And I'd seen Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, but this movie came in just before I might have started as a kid rejecting this old antiquated special effects technology. If it was maybe a year or two later, I probably might have felt the same way. But as a kid, I really liked this movie. I remember coming out of the theater and they were advertising toys. I think Mattel made the toys. After Star Wars, everybody wanted to try a toy line. I don't think these took off very well, and I don't think they were very attractive looking toys either. But I wanted a Kraken, and I wanted a Pegasus, and I loved all this stuff. And Bubo, I wanted a Bubo, and I finally fucking got one. But this movie's a lot of fun. It moves really quick. Like I said, there's a lot of plotting, but it goes quick. There's humor, there's action, there's horror, there's suspense, there's drama. The woman, Julie Bowker, she's not very good. In fact, that's kind of a theme through all these movies. The female parts aren't good to start with, and the performances, therefore, aren't very interesting either. But the monsters are all cool as hell. Everybody loves the Kraken. I'll take this old stop-motion Kraken over the new CG Kraken anytime. I love this Kraken. Medusa's cool as shit.
Yeah, Medusa is the best part of the movie, I think.
Medusa and the Kraken would be my two favorite scenes, probably. But it's also got a two-headed dog, doesn't it? Like there's a dog thrown in there too.
And
I seem to remember that. Yeah.
And giant scorpions.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of the most ambitious in terms of how many effects had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to Ray Harryhausen talk about animating Medusa, and he said that he stayed up for sometimes days straight because he had to animate all the heads at once and then he had to keep track of the movements that he made on all the heads of the snakes. And he was always, at one point, he made a mistake, and he didn't realize it until he was many frames in, and he had to go back and undo everything he had done and start over. And he was devastated because he lost, days of work, all because he hadn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a special kind of person to do stop motion animation. Harry Hamlin would later become famous for a long-running appearance on L.A. Law, I think was the TV show he was on for so many years. And a year later, he appeared in a groundbreaking film for gay people called Making Love. And he has said in recent years that Making Love totally ruined his whole career. Michael Ontkean and Kate Jackson co-starred with him in that movie, and I think it hurt all of their careers. Well, the two guys anyway, and they were warned by everyone not to play a gay character, and apparently it was true. You shouldn't play a gay character in 1982, unfortunately. Burgess Meredith, as Dave disparaged earlier, the great Burgess Meredith, who everyone loves all the time, plays Ammon. Sean Phillips, who also plays the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam in the 84 Dune, is Cassiopeia. Pat Roach, who plays General Kale in Willow, is Hephaestus. Jack Gwillem is Poseidon. Ursula Andress is Aphrodite, and even though she's high up on the cast list, I think she has one line in this movie. Claire Bloom is Hera. Maggie Smith is Thetis. She's like one of the main villains, really, and I love Maggie Smith. Laurence Olivier, as we said, was Zeus, and Neil McCarthy is Calibos. It is the last movie that Harryhausen did effects for, as I mentioned earlier. Maggie Smith was married to the screenwriter Beverly Cross, who also wrote Jason and the Argonauts. Hamlin and Ursula Andress met on this set and later had a baby. I don't know if they got married, but they had a baby anyway. Laurence Olivier, I thought this was cute. Laurence Olivier was so ill during the making of the film, he would often go and lean on his tall, burly co-star Pat Roach, saying, "Let me draw some of your strength, dear boy." And in an attempt to cash on the success of Kenner's Star Wars, Mattel produced those toys I was telling you about. They made a Perseus, a Thallo, Calibos, Charon, Pegasus, and a Kraken. And our friend Jason Crow has one of these Krakens. And as cool as I would like to think it would be to have a Kraken, it doesn't look right. It don't look right. There are a lot of models and newer merchandise based on the characters from Clash of the Titans that are pretty cool. Like my Bubo here. I'd love to have a Kraken, but I don't know where I'd put it. I've got such limited shelf space in this house. My last little bit of trivia is about the music. They originally had John Barry of Dances with Wolves and all the James Bond films score this movie. He recorded 15 minutes, and Ray Harryhausen didn't like it. So the demo tape was found. I just learned this today. The demo tape of this music John Barry did was found in the Harryhausen archives in 2019, and parts of it were heard on a podcast called The Music of Ray Harryhausen Volume 5 Clash of the Titans, and it is now one of my missions to track this down and hear this music John Barry did for Clash of the Titans, because I love John Barry and I'd like to hear it. I don't know what else I can say about this movie. I just think it's a joy, an absolute joy to behold, and it gets my highest score of any of the movies tonight. It gets, I'm making sure it's me, 8. I really love it. And Dave gives it a 10. Ben, what do you give it?
I give it an 8 as well. It's a tie with Jason the Argonauts for me.
Dave, how is it Ben's not on crack and you are? Ben's the crack fiend in this trio, isn't he?
I don't know, man, because maybe if I watched it again, but based on not having watched it again, I would give it a 6.
Well, even that's better than I was thinking, but 6 is all right. I can live with a 6. I could even live with a 5. Once you get to 4, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. But that's our little trip down Harryhausen Lane. And maybe there's some other Harryhausen films we'll review in the future, but I think these were, between the three of us, our favorite three, obviously, not counting Clash of the Titans for Dave, but for the rest of us anyway. And that ends our little Harryhausen tribute. Any of you guys want to say anything about Harryhausen and these films before we wrap up the show?
So he never had kind of that all stop motion feature kind of magnum opus, did he?
Not all stop motion that I'm aware of. Maybe he did some shorts. I'm sure he did some shorts that were all stop motion at some point.
He did that, but yeah,
those fairy tale things Dave was talking about earlier, I bet those were all stop motion.
Yeah, they were, but I don't know if they were. I don't think they were feature length.
They weren't. They were all. They were all shorts, like 5 minutes.
Man, I can just, if he had done something like Phil Tippett's Mad God, I can only imagine that would be incredible. I love Mad God so much.
I still have to see it. It's something I keep
You
putting
have to.
off.
It's so good.
Phil Tippett was pretty much his protege, took over.
Yeah.
You know,
But unfortunately, poor Phil didn't have nearly as long to have a career doing that before CGI came with Jurassic Park and made him extinct, unfortunately. I remember him saying how depressing that was when CGI came. Because his whole... I mean, I kind of feel that way as a filmmaker today. I like Phil Tippett, seeing movies die all around me, like we were talking about at the top of the show. But let's not talk sad at the end of the show.
Let's not dwell on that.
Oh, guys, movies, now more than ever. It looks like we've got all of our comments. Robert, thanks for watching the show and being one of our, if not our only... Nope, Aaron Marshall. Hey, we had two commenters tonight. I do want to thank everybody who's been watching the show on YouTube, because last week's show beat the prior week's show, which beat the prior week's show. So that means more people have been watching each successive week. Hopefully tonight we'll continue that trend. We don't know yet, but we'll find out by the end of, before the next show anyway. And a lot of our little individual videos have been getting a lot of views too. So if you check out any of our stuff, please subscribe, like, leave a comment. All that engagement really helps out the channel, and we really appreciate it from the bottom of our little cinema-loving hearts. Next week, we're doing Christmas a little early because Avatar comes out the following week, and we're going to make the show before Christmas our James Cameron show, where we talk about all of James Cameron's films, including the latest Avatar. So next week, we're doing our Christmas week. That'll be the 14th. We're going to talk about some traditional Christmas movies and some untraditional Christmas movies, because I like all kinds. And if we had to just pick one, I just couldn't live with myself. So Gremlins, I'll give you, that's one of mine. Dave, do you want to say what one of yours is going to be?
I can say both. Or do you just want to say one? Do you want
just one is a secret.
Just one.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to say White Christmas with Bing Crosby.
Ben, what's one of the Christmas movies you're going to talk about next week?
Feast of the Seven Fishes.
Feast of the Seven Fishes. Now, Ben has a special relationship with the director of that movie.
Yeah, he was my film school professor. So
yeah,
full disclosure.
That's one of the reasons why that film was on his radar.
I'm going to watch that movie, Ben, before next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your positive review of it to vindicate me. Scott's.
Hopefully, it's better than Clash of the Titans. He might not like it. You never know. Well, that's our show tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. We really love movies. We really love talking about movies. I think we're also next week going to have a review of the new 4K release of Disney's The Emperor's New Groove.
Woo!
Unless it doesn't get to my house in time, but I expect it to be here by then, so we'll also be doing that. And hopefully there'll be better Hollywood news as well. No more Netflix bullshit. No more Tarantino saying how much he hates somebody.
Let's hope.
All right, guys. You guys want to say anything else?
Yeah, watch more movies and unsubscribe from Netflix.
And subscribe to us. And make your friends subscribe too.
Yeah, subscribe to us instead. We're free.
All right, everybody. Happy holidays, and come back next week for our Christmas show. We love you. Bye now.